I'll try this a new way. I'm gonna show you the tricks that I know. I'm getting tired of talking, and I need more of a show right now. It's time that you made your mind up, 'cause lately all it ever does is change. Feels like we're only talking, going round and around, back around. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay. 'Cause now is the right time, and I'm feeling alright. I'm playing your game like I know I can win right now. It's a final. You got me on tonight, 'cause loving you is like I'm walking a tightrope so high. I won't be turning around. No, I won't be turning around. It's the right time. You feeling alright? I'm playing your game like I will win tonight. I think I'll do it on my way. I'm gonna show you what I'm going through, get you out of your comfort zone, 'cause I need more of the truth right now. It's time that you made your mind up, 'cause lately all it ever does is change. Feels like we're only talking, going round and around, back around. I will fight like no other every day. I won't stop like the others. I will stay. 'Cause now is the right time, and I'm feeling alright. I'm playing your game like I know I can win right now. It's a final. You got me on tonight, 'cause loving you is like I'm walking a tightrope so high.
Hey guys, Sean here. Welcome to the F1 word and apparently to opposite land, where not only do we get a good Paul Ricard, we also get a good race in Sochi. What even is this season? Wow, what a weekend. Hope you're all well in chat. I can imagine there's one fan base that are absolutely gutted and two fan bases that are very, very happy today. Poor Lando. That's all I'm going to say at this stage. Poor Lando Norris. Obviously, spoilers if you've not seen the race, but I don't see the point because it's a race reaction. So while you're watching the race reaction, Jack Chambers, if you haven't finished watching the race yet. Good to see you all again. Hope you're all good. We're going to just jump straight into it, really. I've got Jonty with me shortly. Let's have a look at this race result. Did I put the right one in? Yes, I did. Slow PC again today for some reason. Anyway, Lewis Hamilton, victory in Russia, 53.2 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen in second place. Trust me, that don't tell the full story. 53 seconds over Max Verstappen in the end, though. I mean, Max, what's that, P20 to P2? Talk about damage limitation. Carlos Sainz, third place. I'm still not quite sure how he ended up there. We'll discuss that shortly, of course. Daniel Ricciardo in fourth. Valtteri Bottas fifth. And Fernando Alonso in sixth. I thought he was going to get on the podium at one stage. Lando Norris on the brink of his first ever F1 victory. Then it rained, and it all kind of went wrong from there. Seventh place for him, but just to kind of rub salt into the wounds a little bit more, he is currently with the stewards, and I'm afraid that is going to be a slam dunk penalty for sliding wide on pit entry, cutting across the white line, then coming back in to make his pit stop. So that'll be a penalty all day long. Kimi Raikkonen, P8 for him, so that would be P7. P9 for Sergio Perez. He would just about get bumped up as well. George Russell, once again, in the points in 10th place. Seemed disappointed, though. The Aston Martins both somehow made it to the end. 11th for Stroll and 12th for Vettel. 13th for Gasly, 14th for Ocon. Charles Leclerc only down in 15th. I think he stayed out on the dries, didn't he? Giovinazzi in 16th. 17th for Yuki Tsunoda. 18th for Nikita Mazepin. And then he's classified, but he didn't really finish. Nicholas Latifi and Mick Schumacher didn't finish either, and that is the wrong colour there. He is not racing for AlphaTauri. He is, of course, racing for Haas. So let's bring Jonty in. And say a very good afternoon, mate. We joked after the last race that Russia was going to be dreadful, and do we have to go to Russia? I think we'll take that as a race, won't we?
I'd say so. That was pretty good. Even before the rain, there was some decent battles going on. So, yeah, I enjoyed that. I hope everyone else did.
I don't see how you can't. Like you say, even before all the chaos at the end, it was still a bloody good race, wasn't it? I mean, there is only one place to start, and that is with the battle at the front. Of course, Lewis Hamilton taking win number 100, Jonty. 100 wins. Would you, just very quickly, I don't know if I've asked you this, I've asked Dan before, but when he took his first win in 2007, did you think he'd get to 100?
No. I never thought anyone would get to 100, to be honest.
It's madness. Absolute madness. It's taken a while to get here, but he got that 100th win in the end. But Lando, I've got to start with Lando. It feels like a negative, but he was superb all weekend. Brilliant yesterday in qualifying. Perfect timing. I did catch the highlights. He got out there. He got that lap in when others were making mistakes. Got pole position. Yes, he lost out to Sainz off the line, but then he drove superbly once he got into the lead. All looking good. Then the rain came, and it was one of those... You're damned if you do and damned if you don't in some ways, aren't you? At the point where he had to make the decision, the track was good enough to race on the slicks, he says. He decided to stay out. Hamilton pitted. McLaren thought the rain was staying the same. Mercedes said it was going to get worse. Turns out Mercedes were right, and he's just slipping and sliding all over the place, and frankly lucky to make it back to the pit lane. I mean, there was a point where I thought it was game over for him. I didn't see him getting around on those slicks, so absolutely devastated. I've seen a lot of people talking about hindsight and all of this business, but I don't think this is the same as looking back at an incident in a race and saying, well, they should have done this, should have done that, because I was screaming at the TV as soon as Hamilton pitted, Lando, you've got to get in. You've got to pit. And I know it was difficult for him to get around, but it just felt like... Is that inexperience? Should the team have guided him a little bit better? I guess is the question I'm coming to. Or was he just really unlucky that everything didn't really go his way with the timing with the weather? Whereas it fell other people's way?
It's 100% experience, that one. We've talked loads of times about, when the drivers should be telling the pits, no, my tyres are fine, I don't need to pit. We've heard Lewis do it. And there was someone last year, I can't remember who it was, but, they were taken out of a really good result because they pitted too early because the team told them. And 95% of the time, it's right for the driver to make a final call when it's all about how it feels. Apart from approaching weather. Yes, he can say it's fine now, but he doesn't know what's coming in. The team should be telling him, no, it will get worse. Get in the box now. And they tried to. Someone said, and he said, no, it's fine. They really should have got on the radio to him saying, no, it's going to get a lot worse. You have to pit. And maybe 90% his fault, 10% the team. Maybe a bit more of an even split because the team did get it. They should have been much, much sterner on him. But he did make that call himself.
I was going to say, what more can the team do other than pit? We need you in the pits, or do you want if the driver says he's fine, then what can you do? But as RC Ritter says there in chat, if a flood is 100 yards away, the driver has no idea. The team have got the radar. They've got it's sort of the opposite to a drying track, isn't it? If the driver, I'm thinking Turkey last year, Hamilton was like, no, I'm fine. We can stay on these tyres, and kept going and went on to win the race. Whereas Lance Stroll, the team called him in and it all fell apart for him, didn't it? It was kind of the opposite, if that makes sense. So you leave it to the driver if the track is drying, would be my take on that. But if you've got all the radar information and you've got the TV cameras and all of that, you can see all the world feed. You can see it's getting wetter. Should the team be firmer? But then the team can't say any more than, pit, or do you want the inters? If he says no, I mean, Hamilton ignored the first call. Mercedes said pit for inters, and he said no, and he went on. So I don't really put a lot of blame at McLaren's door, other than screaming at Lando, get your backside in. There's not really an awful lot more they can do. But if it had come off, we'd all say it was genius. If he'd have stayed out and it had dried up and everyone else had to pit again, it was mad. And Emily's just saying in chat, there actually just caught it out the corner of my eye, which threw me off completely, Emily, sorry. I saw the Chris Medland tweet about how McLaren should have pitted him because everyone else had the gap because everybody else had pitted, and that was what I was screaming, why are you not coming in, Lando? You've got worst case scenario is you have a shocking in lap and you end up third. Do you know what I mean? And he was on for a podium, I think, if he'd just come in. A bit of that's hindsight, but I think the fact that so many were screaming it just, I don't know, it's a real shame. I mean, he had a great weekend up to that point, and I don't think he put a foot wrong until that decision. But if that happens in 10 years' time, does he make a different call?
Yes, he does. Jessica Clark in chat pointing out he needed this experience. I have to agree with that. If he's worth his salt as an up-and-coming driver who's just going to improve over time, this is a mistake he won't make again. It's going to be very, very valuable learning for him. He's going to learn when he can say, no, it's fine, or when to actually listen to the team.
A bit like, I think we've discussed this before. It was probably me and you on a stream, actually. China 2007, Hamilton on his tyres. He always gets nervy when he thinks they're getting too worn now, doesn't he? He wants that call to be made. He doesn't want to be sliding into the gravel on pit entry. So maybe that's Lando's moment there. Next time he's like, we've got to pit. Worst case scenario today is second because they had to beat Ferrari. I think did they still outscore Ferrari even with Sainz third? So they've kind of got away with that, assuming, of course, he keeps seventh, which I don't think he will. That's a slam dunk penalty, isn't it, Jonty? That's
all day. Not his fault. Kind of. If we could ignore the pitting, not pitting thing, that's just impossible to turn. Exactly the same as Lewis in Germany.
Kimi Räikkönen at the Nürburgring 2007 went straight on, had to go around again, didn't he, on the slicks?
And again.
Poor Kimi. Raz, thank you very much. Says Spain without the S for Lando today. Absolutely. Raz, 50-50 if you want to assign blame. Lando definitely had tunnel vision, being in the lead and fighting to keep it. McLaren's strategist should have forced him into the pit, especially after Hamilton pitted. And Field, thank you very much, mate. Says, can we officially say Sainz is better driver than Charles? Oh, Field. I ain't answering that just yet. Sounds like an aggressive question, but Sainz has been more consistent this season. I think we are getting to that point. Also, Hamilton is a GOAT, but poor Lando, it seemed like he had it. I think the tunnel vision thing is a good point, actually, on Lando, because he said afterwards, didn't he, that he had the lead, 4 laps to go. You can see it from his point of view. He doesn't want to throw that away, because if he pits and it's inters and it dries up, then it's a mistake. And I don't know. I wouldn't want to make that call if I was a young driver in that position. But I mean, it's a mistake. Yeah. He'll learn from it. But I mean, he's a talent, isn't he? He'll be one of many.
Yeah, I mean, we're saying who's to blame, who's at fault. Just in the technical sense, it's not like we're saying you were an idiot or anything. You know, it's impossible for us to say what it was like, but we can understand why things have happened. It's not like we're calling him a fool or anything. You know, there's definitely a case of when you're that close to the end, first win. If it was 20th, 30th win, maybe would have been thinking differently about it.
Feel for him though? Are you kind of a little bit gutted? Because I know we both love it when a new winner crops up, but then somebody as popular as Lando as well, and seems like a genuinely lovely guy. I mean, it's like when Leclerc got his first win, got his first win taken away from him in Bahrain. It was devastating, wasn't it? And that kind of has that feel to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter someone did the whole shaking hands meme of Russia 2021, Sakir 2020. Had that same feeling.
Type R VTech says the volume's a bit low on the stream. Let me know. We're both, when we talk, we're both just touching the red, because I know somebody said it was a bit quiet last week, so I don't want to go clipping and it sounding absolutely dreadful. So let me know. But I've not touched anything other than that since last week. So it might be my mic. I can't get the hang of it, but we'll keep an eye on that.
Just one other thing on that whole pit stop. I think one thing the team could have done that we've seen from plenty of teams in other circumstances is to have Andreas come on the radio. Get someone higher up overruling saying, no, Lando, this is an order. You're putting the race at risk. You have to pit. You know what I mean?
Gaming with Steve says it's a fine line. You get it right, people love you, and you get it wrong, people hate you. Is that kind of the best way to sum it up? In a way, I don't know, Jonty.
Well, sport.
Well, there you go. That's an even better way to sum it up. It's sport. Sorry. It happens.
Sorry, hashtag sport.
Hashtag sport. But I mean, Lewis Hamilton, he said had the rain not come, he wouldn't have had the straight line speed to deal with Lando Norris. I thought that was another one of those Bono, my tyres have gone. But actually, he really struggled to get past Daniel Ricciardo, didn't he, once he was in that DRS train? So maybe rain doesn't come. This is definitely hindsight. Rain doesn't come. Lando Norris is a first-time Grand Prix winner. So it's those fine lines. But disappointing start for Hamilton. We'll talk about Lewis because he took the win in the end. But really poor start. Seemed to get off the line well, and then kind of went to the inside, didn't he, on the run to turn one? And then Lando was there right in front of him, so he had to back off, and that kind of meant that he fell behind Daniel Ricciardo. I think he repassed Ricciardo on that first lap as well, but then fell back behind again, and it just kind of unravelled from there. I mean, he still took the win, so I say unravelled. He's still taken 25 points away, so, you know, I wish my life would unravel that way sometimes, but you know what I mean? It all looked like it was going to fall apart, and there was a stage in that race where I thought Verstappen, on those hard tyres and the way he was closing in, I think about sort of 7 or 8 seconds behind Hamilton on track, I thought, hang on a minute, is he going to come through and nick this one? I legitimately thought he could pinch the win today.
If it had stayed dry, he definitely could have.
Yeah. There was that. I mean, there was that. He did. I mean, talk strategy. I mean, he kind of stayed out on the tyres quite a while, but not. He was struggling on the degradation, wasn't he? That seemed to be higher today. Tyre degradation is a note I've got in here. So maybe if it had stayed dry, he wouldn't have done. But he timed it to perfection as well with the inters. Lewis probably a lap later, but it didn't really matter in the end, did it? Because he still got the win. But it's sort of like, again, back to Norris. Like I said, it's sort of the conditions fell right for some people in terms of the pits, and kind of wrong for others. And he was on the wrong end of it in some ways. And Hamilton goes one more lap, and he's on the wrong end of it. You've got Alonso, Verstappen, Bottas, it all fell quite nicely for them, didn't it? So it's just the lottery that is the weather, but it's a huge day for the championship. I'd argue, controversial opinion, better day for Verstappen than Hamilton.
There's nothing controversial in that. Before the rain, it looked pretty much like Hamilton was going to come out with an 8-point lead. Now he's got 2. It's
just ebbing and flowing so beautifully, isn't it? I mean, what a drive from Max. I know the rain helped out at the end there, but 20th to second, if that's Perez or that's Leclerc or that's Alonso, everyone's going mental. I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. Took advantage of the conditions when they came, pitted at the right time. Christian Horner must have told Sky 702 times in 3 minutes that Verstappen made the right call, so I assume Verstappen made that call over team radio. In he came, and it just all worked out for him. There's a shot on screen there of Norris on the dries just coming in, as Verstappen's going past on the wets, I think that is, or on the inters, so it just... so frustrating for Lando, but great driver for Verstappen. Like I said, damage limitation. 2 points in it, and we're going to... I'm not really sure which way for Turkey, which way to call that one. If that's a Red Bull or a Mercedes track, that might be a bit closer than others, but then you look at some and you go, oh, Red Bull have got a few tracks coming up here. Mercedes still needs to take an engine penalty. He's looking good, is Max. Do you reckon, Jonty, for this one? Is this the year we get a new world champion, or do you think Lewis is just that little bit of extra experience is going to make a difference? I know they've played it down this weekend, Red Bull.
It's very difficult to call, isn't it? I have this funny feeling that it's the number twos that are going to make a big difference here. If we get another situation of a mixed-up grid, you can presume at some point Lewis is going to have to take a new engine and get a penalty. So, no, I don't know why. I can't call it either way, and that's a brilliant thing. That's the best thing. But Clanson, Lady Blah Blah, amazing name, says in the chat, Lewis makes a lot of mistakes this year. He's certainly made a lot more than I've seen in recent years.
Well, he's under pressure.
Key. Yeah,
under pressure really for the first time since 2016. Ferrari did all right in 17 and 18 and put up a bit of a fight, didn't they? But it's not like this. I think this is the first time it feels as though the title could get away from him since Rosberg in 2016. And if you look back to 2016, obviously reliability was an issue, but when drivers are under pressure, in fact, not even 2016, just any title fight, when a driver's under pressure, they're more likely to make mistakes. When you've got, God bless him, Valtteri Bottas as your teammate and he's your main rival, you're not going to make mistakes because who's there to put the pressure on? I'm not... Wow, how long are we in this stream? He's had a pop at Bottas already. You know what I mean? It's not the same as having a Rosberg there, is it? Or if he was teammates with Verstappen, Bottas isn't going to be there putting the pressure on like others will. So I'm not actually surprised to see mistakes creeping in, but has Verstappen made mistakes? I mean, played his part at Monza. Still don't think that's a penalty, but whatever. Played his part at Monza, according to the stewards. Is that a mistake? I was trying to think about big errors that he's made. The tyre blowout at Baku wasn't him, was it? So you're going to come in and tell me something I've missed that is blatantly obvious now. I suppose actually where he gave the position back in Bahrain.
Possibly, yeah. But I would say, as far as today goes, Max deserves those points just for not getting minced into the wall by Leclerc. Have you forgotten that one?
Yeah, no. It's not in my notes, but yeah, you're right. He sort of had a little sniff, didn't he? And Leclerc came across trying to pass somebody, I want to say Ricciardo, and then, because they were having a nice little scrap, and then nearly in the wall. He had a couple of moments as well, a big wobble through turn 3, Crofty kept saying, just he's sort of following in the dirty air, and he thought, oh, God. But, yeah, that's a great point. I was just going to talk about his big overtakes in the race. I think his move on Bottas early on was critical. I don't know if I buy into the argument that Mercedes put Bottas back there to hold Verstappen up, because if they did, then frankly he did a crap job. He was pretty terrible at doing it. I think that was just about terrible qualifying. Well, 7th place, not great for him. So get an engine ready for later in the season.
Yeah, that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was tactical, but the defense that he put up was sort of Peter Dinklage versus Michael Jordan in a jump off. There was no effort in that defense whatsoever. So if it was tactical, they missed the biggest problem of having someone who can't defend.
Yeah, exactly that. And I'm just flicking through my notes now. It's really just pit stops, and then my handwriting gets really frenetic towards the end because I can't keep up with everything that's kicking off. But yeah, I mean, that move on Bottas was important for him. Made some good... I mean, he didn't... The first couple of laps, he didn't come through very quickly. I think I've written down somewhere P17 after lap 1, whereas Leclerc was P12 and Bottas was P15. Obviously, they started higher, but he didn't really cruise through the field like I expected early on, but then he started to make progress. But he got DRS trains with a key today again, weren't they? For those drivers trying to come through the field. As soon as they got into the back end of one of them, it was just so hard to get past. And I think I agree that without the rain, it would have been much worse for Verstappen today. And I think he'd agree with that one. So, yeah, but final word on Hamilton. Race win number 100. Takes victory again when other people make mistakes, Jonty. Yeah, I'm just going to leave you with the final word on him before we go around again with everybody else.
Well, it's an incredible record. That's all you can say. And it's nice that it didn't come from a penalty. It came from both drivers and teams having to get it right. You know what I mean? That it's not like just some gift. So that makes it worth it.
Yeah, I totally get that. It's not like Verstappen won it and then got a 10-second penalty, isn't it? It got handed to him. It was, he had to work for it. And I'm trying to think of parallels between this. I like to try and think about things like this, parallels between the first win and his most recent win. The only thing I can think is, obviously, Canada, he dealt with all those safety cars, Kubica's massive crash under pressure, and it wasn't the same today, but he had the pressure as well, didn't he? And the conditions changing and having to come through the field. So he had to fight for his first one, or at least keep a cool head in his first one. He had to fight for his most recent. So that's the best parallel I can draw. No safety cars today. Despite that rain towards the end, no VSCs and very few, I think the yellow flags for a couple of people running wide late on and for polystyrene at turn 2. For all that chaos towards the end, kudos to every single driver that kept that out of the wall, although I think some did hit the wall and kept going. So, yes, we'll just do a couple more super chats. I'll keep an eye on the chats as well, and then we'll move on to some others. Obviously, later on we'll do Q&A if we've missed anything you want us to talk about, so this is just the reaction. Ruby says Lando was too arrogant. If you listen to the radio, he didn't even open the dialogue. All the other drivers were discussing it. He told them to leave him. I did write down, actually. I think arrogant maybe is the wrong word for me. Not immature. Inexperienced, not immature. Inexperienced, what I was going for. But I wrote down, he was asked, do you want inters? And he just shouted no over the radio, didn't he? So he was quite firm that everything was fine for him. Field again, thank you very much, mate. Says also if McLaren could fix their pit stop issues, they'd be doing incredible, i.e. if Ricciardo could have come back out in front of Hamilton. Great point. Pit stops ever since Belgium. They're a lottery again now, aren't they, as the teams try to get to grips with them. So that's before you'd see a Red Bull come in and you go, well, that's going to be a sub 2 second stop, so they'll be fine. But now there is that little lingering doubt. Is that left rear, for example, going to go on properly? Really great. And I'm so sorry again, please do not send in another super chat to tell me how to pronounce your name. I forgot to write it down last week. I will go back through my stream and I will find it. In fact, let me just see if I can find it on here. I bet I can't. I am so sorry, but thank you so much for your contribution as well. Saying good race, how's life? Danny, wheel-to-wheel battling, always a treat. He was involved in quite a bit, actually, today, Danny Rick, wasn't he? To come home in what was 4th place? Yeah. Seemed to be at the centre of quite a bit of it, Jonty, I would say. But he's you know, a couple of drivers maybe ahead of him without that rain late on. But it does feel as though that win has given him a little bit of a boost in that McLaren. He seems to be more to grips with it. So great performance again, keeping people at bay. Obviously that DRS train and some big points for Danny Rick, and he needed this, didn't he? A couple of really good races.
Yeah, that win's definitely made a change to him. He's got his swagger back. You can see the grin goes particularly high during interviews and what have you. It's like the old persona of Danny Rick, and obviously that's going to translate into how he drives. He's going to feel so much more at ease and more like himself. And he's not only really had to work for it today. He was in fights all day.
I'm glad as well. McLaren needed him there too for the points today. So, I'm just feels right now that he's getting to grips with that car. I think there's still more to come. Just a couple of things I did make take notes on was when he came into the pits. Do you think McLaren fell for Merck's bluff because they ran out in the pits, didn't they? And McLaren followed, and Hamilton did the opposite. Do you think they fell for the bluff, or do you think that was just another one of those do the opposite of what Ricciardo doesn't? Because it felt when watching it like McLaren had been duped into that one, but McLaren are a very experienced team, and I'm sure they've tried that themselves in the past.
Yeah, and what happened to this fake pit stopping rule? 2019 had a hell of a lot of it going on when there was apparently a rule, but we haven't seen it as much in the last couple of years. But I've not heard any talk about giving up with that rule or what. It's bizarre because it's still a massive safety issue.
Has it ever been enforced? I don't think I've ever seen a penalty given for it, for sending them out. Because
I have no idea.
Because Mercedes' argument would be, well, we were sending them out to do the opposite of McLaren, so we were preparing for a stop, and then when we saw him coming in, we decided not to and went straight back in again. But that's still not. You're only supposed by the regulations to come out in the pit lane if your driver is going to pit. Obviously, I think that goes out the window with things like the weather today. You know, Hamilton deciding to ignore that. Mercedes aren't going to get into trouble for that because they're expecting Hamilton. But it was just, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen that enforced. Let me know in chat. I don't think it has. Properly.
No, I can't remember a single instance.
But hey, it's all part of the game. I know it's a safety issue, and as ever with the FIA, they'll not do anything about it until somebody gets hurt. But it's just what they do. I shouldn't laugh about it, but it's yeah. I think they fell for the bluff. A couple of people in chat saying that they haven't, some saying that they have. So there you go. I think it was a bluff, but maybe not. Maybe I haven't heard the full team radio yet. Mercedes might have said box, and then Ricciardo came in to go to McLaren, and Hamilton said, "Oh, I'll stay out if he's." So they might have been expecting him, if that makes sense. So again, if you've heard the team radio, let me know in the chat. But absolutely, buzzing for Danny Rick in P4. It just feels right, like I say, that he's up there and good time. And you know, he said afterwards he made the call, or the team made the call for the Inters. So he obviously listened when McLaren made that decision. Perhaps, obviously, depends where you are on the track at that point. But experience, we've already said it. I don't want to be really condescending to Lando because he's doing a damn sight better in any car than I ever bloody could at 22 years old. It makes you sick. But anyway, 5th place, Valtteri Bottas. I don't know how I feel about that. It's a damn sight better than where he was 5 laps from the end, wasn't it? Was he in the points before the rain came? I don't think he was at all in one of the fastest cars on the grid when Verstappen's coming through and into the points and others are coming through to the points. So it's 10 points, Jonty. It's another drive through the field, but it's 5th. Would you have expected more? Or is that about what you expected, to be honest? He was 14th, apparently, before the rain came, according to Squeaky Bunny.
Yeah, he was. Shocking, to put it mildly. Because I think I remember looking at the timings, at the positions, and Max was already 2 places ahead by like lap 12, 13, maybe 14. After starting a couple of places behind. Shouldn't they both be going through the field at that rate?
You'd think, wouldn't you? It is one of the. It's at worst the second fastest car on the grid, isn't it? That Mercedes. So there's some people. I saw some people on Twitter talking about, is this him not wanting to play the team game? I think Valtteri's a bit more of a professional than that, isn't he? I think he'll still play the role he's expected to play because he's still contracted to that team to the end of the season. So I don't think there's anything in that. I was surprised he didn't defend more on Verstappen. I was totally with commentary on that. I was like, why has he not at least sort of come to the inside and forced him to go the long way round? Or I don't know. It just all seemed really. He's not let him through, but he's not really put up the fight he expected. So. Yeah, I just thought he'd come through a bit more, and with everything happening at the end, you know, you've got Carlos Sainz 3rd, Danny Rick 4th. I will talk about Sainz in a minute. We completely forgot about him. Sorry, Sainz fans. Came through. I just thought you'd expect Bottas to be P3 today if Verstappen can get through to P2, unless that's just me.
Yeah, you would think. Also, don't apologise for forgetting about Sainz. That's his brand, remember?
That's true, actually. Yeah, we'll talk about him tomorrow. A little bit of breaking news. Lance Stroll has been given a 10-second time penalty and a couple of penalty points as well, which takes him to 8 for a 12-month period. So behave, Lance. I don't know when his next one's come off. The Stewart, that was for a collision with car 10 in turn 8, which is Pierre Gasly, which I caught a replay of, but I haven't seen the full incident properly. It's a quick read through it. Nothing. Noting the evidence, car 18, conditions are extremely slippery, which is obvious. He was on the old hard tyres, so they've given him some slack there, but they've still, his mistake. So he drove appropriately, taking them into account when he rejoined and turned into the next corner, considering there were 2 other cars in close proximity. Yeah, they're giving him the responsibility, so it's. I'm not overly surprised. I've forgotten about that, and then I can remember it now. But we're still waiting to hear from Lando Norris. So it's a penalty for Lance Stroll. I can't remember how that affects the result, but that's going to knock him down a little bit. He wasn't in the points anyway, so that's going to put him behind at least his teammate, if not more. Let's have a look. So he'll drop to 12th from 11th. That's destroyed his afternoon. Totally destroyed his afternoon. So I'll let you know if Lando's comes through. That is the decision on Lance Stroll. Where did we get to? Let's talk about Sainz. He's that Spanish guy who drives for Ferrari, if you didn't know. He used to drive for McLaren, actually, and Renault, and Toro Rosso. Bless him. There was a point in that race, Jonty, where he was told over the radio, we can still get a top 5 finish here, and he seemed pretty pissed off. Seemed to be a little bit fairly annoyed at the fact that he was told P5, given that when he pitted he was top 2. So P3 today, I'm a little bit surprised to see him up there, but superb weekend from him as well, just like Lando, just like a number of other drivers. Absolutely fantastic result for him. Got off the line very well. No, actually he didn't. He got off the line pretty average, didn't he? And then he got the slipstream behind Lando, went into turn 1, little lock-up, kept it on, held the lead for a fair while, and then Norris eventually managed to get past him. But great drive from Carlos Sainz today, and probably, if you just said P3 after lap 10, he'd probably be like, oh, that's a bit disappointing. We were fighting for the win, but I think if you told him that on lap 40, or whatever it was, he'd be thrilled to bits for that. I'm loving Carlos in that Ferrari. I keep saying it. I think he's doing a fantastic job, and I don't feel as though he's getting the credit he deserves. Everyone's talking about how well George Russell's doing at Williams. Everyone's saying, oh, let's give Perez a bit more time. Everyone's saying that Danny Ricky will get there, but I don't hear an awful lot of bloody hell. That Carlos Sainz is doing a fantastic job in a Ferrari, alongside Charles Leclerc, who is by many seen as a future world champion and who has been in that car now for a couple of years. I think he's been superb.
Yeah, he has. I'm just thinking back to Field Super Chat. I would be inclined to think Sainz is the better driver.
Better all round?
Yeah. I think Leclerc's got the better one-lap pace. He's pulled out some stonking pole position laps. But Sainz is much better on race day. He's shown that pretty much throughout his career, you'd have to say. He's always been much better on a Sunday than he is on a Saturday. He's like the anti-Russell.
He's like a Perez, but he's actually delivering on a Sunday this season. Because Perez is a bit like that, isn't he? He's not really a great qualifier. He's usually a great racer, whereas we've seen at times he's nailed that on a Sunday this year, but not really so far, if that makes any sense. But I mean, where has it put him in the championship now? He's 6, 7, 8.5 points clear of his teammate in those standings, and he's only 7.5 points behind Sergio Perez in 5th. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'd have to get a bit more thought, because I think Charles Leclerc is pretty quick. I think, like you say, if you put them in, they are in identical machinery, but you know what I mean? If you put them, perfect conditions, no traffic, go and do one lap, I think Leclerc edges it. But I think Carlos Sainz, there's that experience as well, though. It's an experience stream. That's what we're talking about, Jonty. We are the old guys, so we might as well. But Carlos Sainz has been in F1 since 2015. Is that an experience thing? Leclerc's not been around that long, has he? Really?
Yeah, possibly. Sorry, I just got a Candy Grow a Beard. Another great name. Calling me out in the chat. Do I still stand by my decision that Sainz to Ferrari was the wrong decision for Carlos? Not now. Ferrari have turned that around pretty well. Although they're still not the best on strategy.
It's not something I get to say very often. But I did tell you so. I think we had a little bit of it. I have a whole video on my channel that says it has to be Sainz and why it has to be Sainz. And I think there's even a DM conversation where you're like, nope, he's made a mistake. He should have stayed at McLaren. I mean, if he stayed at McLaren, where would he be? Where would McLaren be if he stayed at McLaren?
Yeah, I mean, Ferrari are doing a lot better. It hasn't been the worst decision, but would staying at McLaren have been a better one? It's hard to argue against that either.
For McLaren,
everybody
wins. McLaren are good in third. You put a consistent Carlos Sainz who knows that team and car in there. Are they gone in third? I'd say probably. I still think it's the right call for his career because if Ferrari come knocking, you got to go. It's that kind of team, isn't it? So, yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled. I think he's done a great job today. Can I just say as well, Can He Grow a Beard is a great name. It's it's the second best name I've seen this week, though, alongside, if you don't live in the UK, this might mean nothing to you, but a BBC reporter stood outside a filling station where apparently there's fuel shortage, and his name was Phil McCann. Which is the best name I've heard all week. The most appropriate name I've heard all week. So, unfortunately, Can He Grow a Beard? You get number 2 spot this week. Any other week, it'd be number 1, but that was absolutely brilliant. What else have we got on Carlos Sainz? If you think of anything before I say anything, Jonty, then please do hop in, which wouldn't mean me shutting up for 3 seconds, of course.
No, just his brand continuing, although this time it was him getting overtaken for the lead. Because the world feed was off showing, I think, a scrap between Raikkonen and someone for about 13th. So we missed the pass for the lead.
He went for the undercut. That's what I've got. He went for the undercut, didn't he? But then he came in, had a slow stop on the left, I think it was, or the rear left, sorry. And that Norris had already stayed out, and that kind of put him into traffic. And that's why I think his race was looking like it had unravelled, and P5 was what was going to happen. But P3 at the start of the day, I think he'd have taken, wouldn't he? When you think about the cars that should have come through the field and those that didn't, he's ended up third.
Yeah. He's had quite a roller coaster, sort of emotionally today, I'd imagine. Sort of before the race, if someone said you're going to get P3, he'd have been really happy. About lap 10, if they said P3, he'd have been really annoyed. Like on the radio when said fighting for P5 after the pit stops, and then overjoyed at actually getting P3 at the end.
I thought it's just such a sight to stay. And we actually saw something of him today, which was nice. The TV director is an interesting point. I've seen a few people complain about it, but I actually think the directors had a tough job today. It is their job, of course, but I think they had a tough job because they had to keep an eye on the front. They had to keep an eye on Hamilton. They had to keep an eye on Verstappen coming from the back. And so we missed quite a lot today. I think this is going to be one of those races where you need to keep an eye on YouTube and keep an eye on all of F1 socials, because we're going to see a lot of onboards of overtakes that were brilliant that we didn't see, pit calls that we didn't see, slow pit stops we didn't see, incidents we didn't see. There's going to be a lot of that over the next couple of days. So definitely keep tuned to the F1 socials, because do you see what I mean? They've got to... The championship is what matters to casual fans in particular. That sounds really terrible. I don't mean that to sound terrible, but it does. People that are just watching for the championship, that's what matters. That's what's going to sell at the end of the day. We all, we love a battle in the midfield, don't we, Jonty? We love an underdog. It's great to see, but from an F1 point of view, the big thing is the championship battle. So they've got to focus on Hamilton and Verstappen. So I get why it might have been a bit sucky today, but...
Yeah. And Guardian of the Blind pointing out, because he probably remembers my very angry tweet at the start, the fact that we had one and a bit laps, I think, 1 lap and 1 sector for the leader, and then 2 full laps of replays of the start. Everyone's still bunched up. Anything could happen. It's like, wait 15 minutes before you do this, for God's sake. Everyone's tight together. And I checked it. It was 2 full laps the leaders did, where we were just watching replays. What the hell is that?
It's just replays of the start can wait until either A, things have settled down, or B, you get a safety car. That's when I'm not interested in cars going behind a safety car. I wish we'd had some replays of the start for Belgium. I'll say that. But yeah, I get that. That was pretty weak. But Kazuya, thank you so much. You honestly didn't have to do that. I was going to go back and watch the stream. I've already written it in massive letters in my book now, which I need a new book soon. I will call you, Kazu. Thank you so much for your super chat again to confirm that. Raz says, Giovinazzi apparently had no radio after lap 1. I will jot that down. So that I remember it for when we get to Gio. Phil says, simple way to solve this is if your pit crew comes out, you have to pit or you get a penalty. It's not so hard if it's a safety issue. That's simple. Emily says, 100th win, F1 word, mods, biscuit fund. Thank you very much. And Charlotte says, Charles made great progress from the back of the grid until the rain came. Ferrari called him in to pit for Inters just as he passed the pit lane. So what I'm going to do, because I'll freely admit that we are... Thank you for all your contributions, by the way. I will come to chat as well. What I'm going to do, because we are a little bit all over the place, because we forgot Carlos Sainz, I'm going to go back to team by team. So we've sort of talked about Bottas. We'll go to Fernando Alonso then, so we'll do Alpine. I messaged you, Jonty, and I said, Alonso will be on the podium today. And then I remembered Perez had fresh tyres as well. And then you said, well, it's about to rain. There was a stage before pitting for Inters where Fernando was third. I thought he'd done it. I thought we were going to see Fernando Alonso on that podium, a podium of Norris, Hamilton and Alonso. It looked like it was a possibility. He's been so good again today. And he's driving like he's loving Formula One again. I'm not saying he didn't love it before. He definitely lost some of his love for it before he took his sabbatical, but he's driving like he loves it again. And I am so pleased to see him fighting because he is such a good driver. But P6 today, great result on paper. Do you think there will be an element of disappointment there that he couldn't get a little bit further up, given that he did pit a little bit earlier for the Inters?
Yeah, I'd say so. He had a really quiet race. You didn't really see him at all, and he was keeping really good pace against the leaders. Black Hawk saying he did get a bit of an advantage on lap 1. A couple of others did as well. I'll come to that in a minute, actually. I spied something. I don't know if I did or not. But you're right. Alonso he's back to his old self. He's properly racing. He's not just driving. You know what I mean? And during those, I think, 2 or 3 laps when we weren't sure who was going to pit, how hard the rain was going to be, and it was all over the place. I think there was 4 drivers over the space of 2 laps that I was convinced was going to win, because it really could have been anyone at that stage.
You think Fernando was in with a shot at one stage?
Yeah, especially when those 3 were staying out and the rain didn't look too bad. You know what I mean? And his tyres were fresher.
I was going to bring this up as well myself. From Matthew Bell in chat says, do you think Alonso even tried to make turn 2 on lap 1, or did he just cut the corner? Prior to the race, he gave it a go down at turn 2, didn't he, on his reconnaissance laps? To see how quickly he could get back on track through the bollards. So, if that... No. I mean, he'll have tried, but a driver with that experience will have seen it was tight, there's no point. You may as well, if you can, bail out. So long as you rejoin on those bollards and let any cars through that are beating you to it, it's probably the right thing to do to avoid contact. I need to see his onboard, but it does seem like a Fernando thing. I mean, don't forget his final ever race. He cut half of Abu Dhabi off. He didn't even complete half of Abu Dhabi. He cut. What did he cut? Turn. So there's turns. The hairpin was 7, wasn't it? So he cuts turn 8 and 9. Then he cuts the chicane up at sort of 10 or 11, somewhere around there. Didn't even bother. So it is a very Fernando thing to do.
Yeah, working out in his head. If I can save more than 5 seconds by cutting all these corners, the penalty doesn't matter. Well, no, the thing with those bollards, I'm convinced that during practice on Friday, it was much tighter. See, I'm sure a couple of cars did it in the F3 or F2, and there was hardly any steering input. On Friday, they really had to sort of properly turn like a chicane to get through it and slow down. Today, you didn't need to. They've ended up being placed a little bit further apart so they can just straight line it, because there was no slowing down from that at all.
I was surprised that wasn't done sooner, though, because Carlos Sainz had a nasty crash there last year, which could have been even worse the way he came back across the track. It doesn't seem like the best way to do it. And I was just going to say, is there any way they could push that wall back? But next year's the last race at Sochi, so they're not going to bother spending any money on that, are they, if they can avoid it? It's St. Petersburg not next year, year after.
No, there's no point in that. But I think they've done those bollards in completely the wrong way. Don't make a chicane out of them. Make it like the last turn at Canada. You have one bollard way over to the left where the driver's got to go all the way over there, brake, turn right, and follow the wall back. So it really is a penalty.
Like Spain. Yeah, Spain's got the similar at turn 1-2, hasn't it? Get to that left-hand side. That makes a lot more sense for me. But I think great drive from Alonso today. 13 seconds behind Bottas towards the end. He's actually quite a way off the lead in the end, though. But then everybody is, isn't they? Because Hamilton sort of disappeared after him and Norris disappeared early on once they sort of got 1-2. So, yeah.
I don't think we can really can draw any conclusions from the times at the end, to be honest, because people pitted at such different times spread over the course of 4 or 5 laps that I don't think it's really fair to judge anyone on their gap at the end.
No. We've talked about Lando. We will talk about it a bit more. So if you are just tuning in, sorry if you've come for the Lando talk. We did it at the start because it was sort of relevant to the race win. But we'll come to him afterwards again, and we'll talk a bit more. But we will do Esteban Ocon down in 14th place. I've not got a lot to say on Esteban, other than reiterating what I said a couple of races ago. Actually, that he got that win in Hungary. He sort of had a really great start to the season, then fell off a bit, then got that win in Hungary, and then it's been sort of okay. And just today, not really a great result, P14. But the reason I've not got an awful lot to say is because, as you've already touched on, Jonty, and as we were talking about, because the race directors had to focus on the championship battle and everything going on at the front, I don't really remember seeing an awful lot of him. In fact, I'm pretty sure some of the first things I saw of him was when I went to get the photos of him from XPB for the stream. I don't remember seeing much of him at all.
Well, he's finished behind Pierre Gasly and Stroll and Vettel, all of whom have had collisions. Gasly got nerfed off by Stroll. And Ocon's finished behind him without having any dramas. Unless he's had a spin somewhere we haven't seen, it's not good, is it?
No, it's lapped 13 seconds off Gasly. Only 2 stops, so there's not an extra stop in there either. So unless there was, Clansom says just an anonymous race. Could just be one of those situations. His drive was pretty rubbish, to be frank, says Corey. Yeah, I'm not even going to try and stretch this out to say something. If I've not got anything to say, there's no point. I think we sort of touched on Charles Leclerc because he had the incident with Max Verstappen, didn't he? 15th today. That's a guy that's gutted. I'll tell you that. I haven't seen his interview, but I know he will be. P15. I mean, he was coming through so strong early on, and I thought he was going to be right up there, top 5, top 6. And then he got caught out by the rain. I think he was the one actually that had that spin and hit the barrier side on, but managed to keep going. So it just all fell apart from him because he tried to stay out on the dries, didn't he? And it just all
that was Stroll that went sideways in. I thought
it was Stroll, yeah.
Leclerc had the one where he was just completely locked up,
straight on, yeah,
and managed to stop about 2 feet from the barrier. He was very, very lucky not to go into it.
I've got it here. They're together on the page. I knew I was going to get them mixed up. Yeah, straight on. Couldn't slow down. Dry tyres.
I bet that's a horrible feeling. You know, he wasn't going particularly quickly, but he just sat there saying, "Oh, please stop, please stop, please stop."
Interestingly, just on the FIA thing, I'll come back to Leclerc in a second. They've already got their scrutineering document in, but they've not given us a decision on Lando Norris. I thought Lando Norris was an absolute ruddy slam dunk. I thought that'd be easy. I actually thought they'd get that before the stream, but I don't think he went till Q2, so I'll keep an eye out for that one. But scrutineering's in already, so that's pretty swift. But yeah, just a frustrating day for Leclerc in the end. But it's not just me, is it? He was looking very good for a very good finish, or a strong finish.
Yeah, he really was. He came through the pack at comparable pace to Max. He pretty much shadowed Max through the field, so he was on for a great finish. I don't know if it's his call or the team's call that's got something wrong with when to pit for the inters. I'm sure we'll find out when more team radios are released.
If you want me to be a snarky shit, it's Ferrari. So I'd probably say if anybody's made the mistake, it's them. But then Sainz pitted right time, didn't he, for inters? So maybe it was Leclerc's decision as well to stay out. In fact, that probably makes more sense than what I said. Because if Ferrari have pulled Sainz in for inters, then it must have been Leclerc that made the decision. Because otherwise they both have been in straight away. You surely get a double stack in that situation. Or I would. I mean, I don't know. I'll just have a quick flick through my notes again. Slow pit stop as well for Leclerc. Didn't help him either. That put him down to P13, put him into traffic, so that hurt him. So just a day, I think, to forget once those pit stops came around for him. But I think I'm enjoying the fight between Leclerc and Sainz, but I think he'll be a little bit nervous. We talked about it earlier. I think he'll be nervous that his teammates come in and started trying to beat him. How dare he? Charlotte says Ferrari calls Charles in just as he passed the pit lane. So there we go. Timing. That's team, driver, both. That's both, really, isn't it? Leclerc could have made the call earlier. Ferrari could have made the call earlier.
Yeah. Pull in here. Where? Back there. Oh.
Yeah. Flummox actually says Charles said it's okay. It's okay dry. So it sounds like a bit of a mix-up in that respect, but hey. It feels like a day where, we said it earlier with Lando Norris, you're either going to, it sounds such a stupid thing to say, you're either going to get it right or you're going to get it wrong. But it was one of those days where if you got it wrong, you got it spectacularly wrong. It was always going to happen. So yes, let's get back to team by team. I wanted to do Leclerc because we've already covered Carlos Sainz. Kimi Räikkönen, doing a Kimi Räikkönen. Saw next to nothing of him. Experience P8. In fact, actually, Jonty, that's the point, isn't it? Hamilton P1, Daniel Ricciardo P4, Fernando Alonso P6, Kimi Räikkönen P8. What have all of those got in these sorts of conditions? Experience. I think that sums it up very nicely. I shouldn't be surprised to see Kimi up there at all, should I?
Yeah. But then he was awful last time out. So maybe he's just bothering when he enjoys the track. Because I'm sure the drivers actually like going around Sochi. Turn 3 is amazing. The braking for turn 2 must be a lot of good fun. And the run down to 12. It's just one that doesn't make for good racing to watch. So that would probably fit with Kimi.
I want to see him do well, Jonty. I do. I know a lot of people keep telling me that he's past it and I should let it go and he should have retired years ago, but I like Kimi. I don't know if I'm in a big camp or a small camp with that one, but I do. And I want to see him do well in these last few races. Glad he's back. Glad, obviously, his COVID was, I don't know if it was asymptomatic, but he wasn't like really poorly with it if you listen to Alfa and you listen to him. So that's good. Glad to see him back and hopefully he can pick up some points. I'm going to ask the question. It feels like a really stupid question given Giovinazzi's a little bit inconsistent on a Sunday, if I'm being generous. 7 points now for Alfa. Can they kick on from that 8th place and overhaul? Try not to laugh while I say it. That 23 points from Williams. Do you think there's still a chance, or are they going to need absolute chaos?
They need another Turkey last year, Germany 2019 for that to work, or Hungary this year. There's no way that car is quick enough to pull it up. Although, as people have pointed out, I don't know if you've seen it. Oh yeah, you read that super chat. Giovinazzi did amazing with 0 radio. That must be so difficult these days.
Especially towards the end of the race when you've got to make that decision on tyres and he's got nobody to talk to. That's got to be. Did he not get the radio back at all then?
No. from everything I've seen, it was literally lap 1, radio went off. That was it. Nothing.
So that's waggling your pit board, isn't it? That's a Gio, get in. Read this, please God, read this. So, yeah, I mean, it's 16th for Gio at the end of the day. It's not a good result, but I think cut him some slack for not having any radio. I saw nothing of him. I don't have a single thing in my notes. I always try to get something on everybody, but I saw nothing of him, so I'm glad that they bought that. Thank you for that in the super chat over Team Radio. I don't really have anything to say on Gio, which I feel a bit bad for, but it's P16. Does that? I mean, there's going to be a Giovinazzi fan that goes, yes, I do, but do we care? That I've got nothing to say on him. That sounds really awful. It's not like he was P4, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's annoying because he's another one who's been doing really well the last few races. After various silly season announcements were made, Bottas going to Alfa, Gio was suddenly being quick, especially in qualifying. But maybe he's now found out that he won't be getting the seat. Who knows?
Yeah. Just to clarify, I'm not saying I don't care about Gio. I'm just saying that if, P16, are we bothered if I've missed anything? But I'm sure if there's something significant, we'd have seen it. I'll keep it on social media and share stuff I see over there. But you might be right. Obviously, a couple of qualifying performances aren't going to save his seat. He needed to turn them into great race results, but he was fighting the best he could, wasn't he? I don't know. Or maybe caught out by conditions. I mean, he's not made an extra stop or anything, so I don't know, really. Sergio Perez, P9, shocking weekend. I've written here. Sorry, Checo fans. I'm not defending him on this one. Max Verstappen, engine penalty. What do you need your number 2 driver to do, Jonty? You need your number 2 driver to be up there to take points away from your title rivals when your number 1 driver has got to take an engine penalty. He was nowhere in qualifying. George Russell was P3 in qualifying. Lando Norris took pole position. Sergio Perez was nowhere. He didn't seem anywhere near on the pace all weekend. Yes, okay, maybe caught out with rain issues at the end, maybe bad decisions on strategy, whatever, I don't know. But it's not like he was close to Hamilton, but he wasn't really making an impression on him. I know that's the DRS train, but really disappointed with Checo this weekend.
It wasn't that bad, to be fair.
Really?
He's another one. No, the whole rain pits thing really did stuff him. Because you don't forget, when Alonso was P3, he was P2.
I mean, he led briefly on through the pit stops as well, but I mean,
and then he was flying after the stop. It's just another case of them getting it wrong with the rain coming. Everyone's made a mistake of some form, apparently, apart from Max, which is impressive.
Yeah, and I mean, he had a slow pit stop as well. I did write the time down. It was
8
point something or
9
9 point something, not 8.9 seconds. But
that's when everyone's closed up a bit.
He shouldn't be. I just don't think he should be in that position anymore. I'll always cut him more slack than I will Bottas because it's only his first season in that car, and we all know that Red Bull is notoriously difficult to drive. But all right, fine, he got screwed by the weather. Yeah, he led briefly through the pit stops because he hadn't pitted, but the gap was coming down, and he was quick because he was on fresher tyres. But he should be quick. He's in the fastest car. I think the Red Bull's the fastest car this season overall, and he should be up there consistently every weekend. And I feel like every single weekend I'll let him off, and I don't think he should be let off every weekend. And I think this weekend, I think he was pretty. I don't think it's his worst weekend in that Red Bull, by the way, not by a stretch. But I don't think he had I don't think he had a good weekend at all. Maybe it's obviously just me. A chat telling me I'm a dick. Basically, some people are, but and you disagree, Jonty. But I just don't think it's easy to say if Danny Rick's in that car if he'd have stayed. We're really talking hindsight now. He's up there. He's probably P3 today, maybe even challenging for the win. Why is Perez not doing more in that car? Does it come back to the fact that a second driver other than Verstappen can't drive that car? Is that what we're looking at?
We can't really tell any real pace from the weekend at all because qualifying was also affected in some way by
That's true, yeah.
the rain. So we didn't get, the guys who went early yesterday to the slicks, they got it right because they just built up that temperature slowly, as opposed to the front runners who left it till the last second, hoping that the track would be better, and they just couldn't get the heat in the tyres. And then he did get stuffed on the interchanges, and you also have to assume that in that situation, he will be, left out to dry a bit whilst Max is serviced first because he's more important. It's a little bit harsh on Perez today because, as some say, he was definitely on for P2.
But then he made the decision not to pit for Inters, and he should know better than that. This is the difference between him and Norris, because Norris is inexperienced. Perez is massively experienced. He should look at that. He nearly got his first win in mixed conditions in Malaysia. He's been here.
But does that skew his own personal perception of his abilities? He is very good in mixed conditions, so he's more likely to not want to change because he can handle it better than someone else can.
Max Verstappen's very good in mixed conditions. He made the call to pit. But then that comes back to your point.
He isn't.
That comes back to your point. Have Red Bull given a call to Verstappen before Perez? But then people in chat are saying that Perez said, no, I don't want to pit. So it's like I said, it's one of those things where it's a hero or zero decision. But if you get it wrong, you are going to look a total prat. It's just one of those things. And everyone at home will be going, what the hell are you doing? But if they get it right, you're going, well, that was bloody genius. Well done, Lando. Well done, Charles Leclerc. Well done, Sergio Perez. But I think if that's Gasly or Albon in that car, their performance today for a lot of people was shit. But because it's Perez, there's a lot of, but strategy didn't go his way, and which is fine. But then let's say Charles Leclerc is a contender for driver of the day then, because it was his strategy that screwed him over. Do you know what I mean? I just don't... I don't know. Like I said, I don't think it's his worst performance in that Red Bull by a long stretch. I think his weekend in Austria was pretty diabolical, wasn't it? Was it Austria or Styria, whichever race that one was? It was pretty poor, but I just wasn't... I never thought like he was going to... Even when he was leading, I thought, well, he's not going to win it. He's not going to be on the podium. I never felt like that from him today. But like you say, qualifying, we can't read anything into the pace. We didn't have an FP3, so we can't read anything into anything there, if you can read anything into practice. And the strategy at the end maybe makes his day look worse than it actually was to me. Perhaps if that call doesn't come in, maybe he could have been.
Yeah, and
top three.
It is right to call out the fact that he, as a lot of chat are saying, that he made the call. And it's fair to say that he looks like the idiot now because of the experience he's got. And I can't remember who said it.
In chat.
Open the box saying, disagree unless you have the same criticism of Lando. We do have the same criticism of Lando and of McLaren and of Red Bull. But the difference is Lando gets something of a free pass because it's the first time he's ever been in this situation. Ever. And maybe this is reaching a bit too far, but team calls cost Perez his first chance at a win. Maybe he's more inclined to ignore them.
That goes back to the Hamilton thing, doesn't it? For China, we're going to do history in a second, then I'll finish off on Checo. But I remember watching that Malaysia, and he's closing down Alonso, and he looked... Oh, I'm going to swear, and it annoys people when I swear, but he looked so fucking good that day in that Sauber. And he was chasing down Fernando Alonso in a title-contending Ferrari. Not a great Ferrari, but a title-contending Ferrari. And I thought, this kid is special. He's going to win this. And then the team went, basically, paraphrasing, think about the points. Think about the championship, wasn't it? These are big points. We don't want to throw this away. Ran wide moments later, and that was it. And I just thought... Bastards.
Yep.
I was so mad at the time. I was so angry. And remember at that stage as well, Fernando Alonso only 7 years previous had ended Schumacher's domination. So he was pure evil at that stage of my life because apparently it took me that long to get over it. So it was even more infuriating. But I thought, why are you making that call? So maybe it does come back to that. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I do need to concede in this instance that I might be wrong on Perez. Did I just say? Sorry, that didn't feel right. I didn't. Yeah, I admit to being wrong. What I'll do is I'll go back and watch it again. I'm quite happy to watch that again. I'll just watch Perez. Maybe I'm wrong on that one, but I just wasn't excited by his race. But if he's been screwed over by the team, or if he's made the wrong decision, or it was just unlucky with the weather conditions, whatever the excuse is, maybe it would have been much better for him today. But I'm just thinking, actually, I've just gone back to DMs on Twitter to backtrack completely on some of the things I've just said. I did actually say to you when I said Fernando P3, but Checo's on fresh tyres, which would say to me that Checo was ahead of Fernando at that point, so probably would have been on the podium. So maybe I should shut up and move on. Just tell me to shut the fuck up, Jonty. Go on. I think people get what my point is. I've got a massive frustration with Perez, and I think it's fair to say we've done more than sing his praises on this channel, Jonty. In the 4 years we've been here, we are big fans of Checo Perez. So it's not a hate thing. I just think that he should be doing better. But also, you could argue, finally answer that question over that second car. If Perez can't do it, can anybody? If that makes sense. So, I don't know.
Maybe. We'll find out next year because it's complete. Everything just. It's a reset, isn't it?
I can't wait for next year. But at the same time, this season's so good, I don't want it to end. Is this the Lando decision? Oh. Okay, so decision on Lando Norris. I think I am as surprised as I was at the Verstappen one last time. He's been given a reprimand for driving. First reprimand for the driver this season. The stewards heard from Lando Norris, and a team representative reviewed the video, radio, telemetry, blah, 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 blah. This was not considered as force majeure because it was not, that's not really irrelevant. So, during the ensuing lap, great word, the conditions deteriorated rapidly and were varied in different parts of the circuit. The driver slowed considerably on entering the pit lane, with his speed approximately half of his normal pit entry speed, but still lost control and slid across the painted area of the pit entry in the track. Although, obviously, the driver chose to remain out on the track on hard compound slick tyres, when others chose to change to intermediates and therefore sought to gain an advantage in retaining his race position, we do not consider that the crossing of the painted area was intentional or predictable in the circumstances. That surprised me, Jonty, because I thought that was one of those that was slam dunk all day long. I thought that was just one of those, you get summoned to the stewards. It was a formality.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. That's a straight black and white safety rule. Intentional, predictable. These things don't come into it. If you do that, you get stuffed. End of discussion. Same as being let out of the pits with a loose wheel. It's a straight, unsafe race, you're done. So I'm sure lots and lots of Lando fans would disagree with that. But no, I can't back that at all.
It's a strange one, isn't it? And Hamilton cut that line in Germany 2019. Oh, that was the bollard more than the line, although it's a similar rule, isn't it? That got a penalty. I'm trying to think of another example recently of that happening. Yuki Tsunoda in Austria. Again, it's not the same situation, completely different track conditions, but he twice came across too early on that white line, and that was a slam dunk penalty. So I'm quite surprised it was would it have destroyed his position? I think you'd be looking at least a 10-second penalty, wouldn't you, for that? So that would have put him 9th. So it's not destroying his race, but it's taking some some critical points away in the constructors in what's a tight fight between them and Ferrari. But yeah, I honestly thought, I was just waiting for confirmation. I thought that was a hard and fast rule.
Yeah, I mean, my personal feeling, I would like him not to get one. I would rather he didn't because, there's not a great deal that he could have done. But it's one of those that's set in stone. You can't have people making subjective stewarding decisions based on what drivers say on something that's a very simple yes or no rule.
I don't know what to say, really.
People saying if he'd stayed out, there could have been a big crash. Yes, they could. Yes, they absolutely could. Which would be on the team to say, no, you pull over and retire. The same as with Lewis's at Germany in 2019. There's so many people saying, yeah, but he had half a wing missing. He couldn't have gone around for another lap. Then he retires. Simple as that. There's a reason that black and white rules are black and white rules.
This is another stream where we're talking about safety, Jonty. It's so unusual.
Not so much safety, just rules. I understand there are a lot of rules which are open to interpretation, which is a bad thing in the first place. I think we can all agree on that. A rule should be a rule. You can't interpret it in any way other than the rule. That's the biggest problem.
And to anyone who thinks we're making this up and just trying to get a penalty for somebody, we're not. We won't get that. We don't get that sway. But Flummox said, Lando said to Sky, quote, probably going to get a penalty for that. So he knew that he was expecting a penalty for that. So we're not making this up. This is something that has been a rule for a long time. And it's irrelevant whether, I compared there to Lewis Hamilton in 2019. I don't care if it was 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. That rule hasn't changed. So I'm just quite surprised. It doesn't matter. It's not either way. It wouldn't have destroyed his weekend because the damage was already done. So I don't know. But first reprimand as well. So he's been well behaved, which is good news. But first reprimand. I've not seen anything, by the way, on Stroll and Vettel. We're going to get to them in just a second. Let's talk about George Russell. I've already promised everyone in chat, and I've promised you, Jonty, I'll go watch Sergio Perez again, and I might change my opinion. Although based on what I've already written to you, probably I have, but. Still do better, Checo. I expected more. We're into the final third of the season now. The excuses need to stop anyway. George Russell, points again. Didn't seem overly thrilled, though, after the race. I think he was on for more points, but I didn't expect him to stay third when he qualified there. I thought dry start, he's just going to fall through the field. He did well to lead that DRS train and hold people off. I think that car was quite slippery in a straight line today, wasn't it? Really pacey on the straight. So really good drive from George Russell today. And again, it's another point. So he seemed disappointed, maybe because Kimi's ahead of them. I don't know. But I think he'd have, had the race been a normal race, he might have taken that at the start of the day. I don't think that Williams is. I've seen comments. I think it was Max Verstappen that made the comment that George Russell is doing really well in the Williams, but he's doing the job in a car that's better than everyone feels or thinks it is. That car is not a top 3 car. It's 8th at best, 8th fastest at best. So he's still doing a bloody good job in it. I don't know why drivers and pundits and people can't just give people credit when they do a good job. But anyway, yeah, solid from Russell today. Like I say, led that DRS train, didn't he? And kept people at bay that in cars that were faster and you'd have expected to breeze past. It's just been a great season, I think, from George all round.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know what it would be. Well, maybe there is something in the design of that car which just suits better to very, very light fuel loads in full, quali trim. That doesn't suit it on a Sunday. I don't know. Because him and Latifi, to be fair, are doing. Well, Russell's doing amazing things on Saturday. Latifi's picking up his qualifying pace as well. And then they both seem to not do that much on a Sunday unless there's chaos.
Slow stop for George as well. He's another one. We'll talk about pit stops in a bit. But another slow stop for him. That put him back a little bit. So maybe some frustration there from him. I'm going to be honest. When it comes to the final few laps when the rain came, I lost track of who was doing what and who was where. It just went. If you haven't seen it, it just all went to shit, quite frankly, didn't it? Everything just fell apart all of a sudden. I had no idea who pitted when, so I don't know if he got any chance of, if he made the call to come in. I seem to feel that he was, I'm trying to think of the timing tower just in my head. I feel like perhaps he came in with the likes of Alonso and Verstappen, same sort of time. Let's see if it's on here. I don't think I've got, in fact, I'll tell you what I could do. I could check with Pirelli, couldn't I? Let's quickly do that one if my PC is okay with that. Yes, it is. Thank you, PC. You're very generous at the minute. Let's have a look. So Russell pitted for Inters on lap 47. Verstappen 48. Alonso a little bit later on lap 50. So yeah, that I was right then. That's nice to get something right today. So George did pit pretty early on when the rain came. In fact, I think he was one of the first. So Mazepin was first on lap 46, and then you had Tsunoda, Russell, Raikkonen, Bottas all pitted the following lap. So yeah, it's not a weather thing, is it? I don't know. I think he'd be happy with 10th. Maybe it's just that slow pit stop, but as you've already touched on, Jonty, Williams looking good now for that 8th place and a few million quid in the back pocket, which they'll be very, very happy with. Sky made a point, actually. I think it was Sky. They hope that Williams haven't compromised next year's car too much with this push for 8th in the Constructors, but I'm fairly certain they were one of the teams alongside Alfa Romeo and Haas to pretty much give up on this year's car straight away, weren't they? I know there might have been odd little upgrades, but I'm pretty sure they gave up, so I don't think they've taken too much away from next year's car.
Possibly. But I'm saying that we don't know how much more investment they've had from Doralton.
That's true.
Have things changed since that, which has given them some budget to continue working on this year's?
I just saw a comment, actually, that you might like on this one, Jonty. RC Ritter, just on the crossing of the pit lane entry, says, fail to enter the pits correctly, 10 seconds, don't touch car. Maybe that's a standard thing. You cut that line. Is there any way that could be automated, that the teams are immediately told your driver cut that line or whatever, and so you don't touch that car for 5 or 10 seconds? Instant penalty. So it's still a penalty, but it's immediate, rather than having to potentially add that to the race time at the end or make another stop to get rid of it.
Yeah. It's entirely possible to have automated things all around all the tracks to determine whether a car has left it or not. But the problem is that technology to go to each race would cost Formula One and the FIA. You know what they're like. They don't like to spend it, pay for it themselves. They like to make someone else do it so it wouldn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, you could put, if we're doing that, sensors around all the track and you cross that white line with all 4 wheels, I don't give a damn if you've got an advantage or not. Strike 1. Happens again, strike 2. And then we can get away with track limit talks all the time. Latifi, not a lot to say on Nicholas Latifi, retired late on. I don't know if I've got an email from Williams. They tend to be one of the first. They might not be the quickest on track, but they're usually the quickest with the press release. And they are indeed second today. Aston Martin won the battle of the press releases today. Latifi retired due to car damage. So we've missed something. There has definitely been something that's happened at some point in that race, Jonty, where some cars have got damaged and there's been incidents that we've missed. Obviously, that Stroll one with Gasly, which I seem to recall seeing Gasly pointing the wrong way and cars trying to avoid him. But there's obviously been something else. Let's see what Nicholas says. Unfortunately, I got caught out on the slicks at the end of the race when it started raining and made a mistake. Maybe not then. I couldn't slow down, so I spun at turn 7 and clipped the barrier, which damaged the rear wing. So it was a spin in those conditions. Somebody else caught out. Couldn't make much progress at the beginning of the race or follow closely to the Haas in front during the key areas. Yeah, it's unfortunate because the prime tyre felt good. Think I started higher up. We could have maintained position and got a strong result, but that's how it goes sometimes. So just a pretty disappointing day for Did you see a replay of that one from Latifi?
No, I was just thinking, what, the prime tyre? I'm pretty certain that there's definitely people watching, probably people in the chat who've never heard the tyres referred to as option and prime before.
I preferred that.
Yeah,
It's the option tyre, prime tyre. And I actually preferred the green band around the tyre as well, rather than the white tyre wall, if you like, that we've got with the Pirelli ones, or the yellow or the red. Maybe just me, but flashbacks to 2009 when the cars, in my opinion, apart from the Brawn, were pretty damn ugly. But they gave us some great racing. Absolutely some great racing. We'll do history later. We can do that later. Talks about Latifi, Stroll and Vettel. I think really the biggest point of their race, I mean, Stroll was looking good, tried to get the undercuts, was coming. I thought he was on for a mega result today, actually, fair Lance Stroll. Kind of didn't work out, but they had contact between the two of them. Vettel on Stroll's outside, coming to the outside, Stroll sort of on the inside, if you like, and then comes across, contact, couple of whacks. How neither of them got a puncture or damage, I don't know, but Sebastian Vettel, I did make a note of it, said afterwards that perhaps he didn't see me, so I don't think there's any animosity there. Just saying that perhaps he didn't. Not that Seb really gets. Has he got the energy anymore for any animosity with teammates? Seb, he doesn't seem overfussed, does he? But he was pretty chill about it all. I don't think it made a massive difference to their race in the end. So disappointing for Aston Martin today. Again, I think we said it last time, Jonty. They're a bit weird, aren't they, this season? I don't know what to make of them, but a word on the contact, I guess, while I just go and have a look through their press release.
Needless. Just like the one in the last race and the race before. Not to highlight the point that Stroll's been doing some silly things of late.
Yeah, it makes reference to the DRS train getting stuck in that, trying the undercut on Russell, which worked out nicely, but the second stint on the hard tyre was made more challenging by that train of cars. It became very slippery out there, and I did not see Sebastian alongside me. We will learn from today and move on to Turkey in a few weeks' time. Let's just gloss over that, Lance. Nothing to worry about, mate. Let's see what he's saying. See if Seb says any more. No, it looks like they both pitted for Inters and then just fell through the field again. What did Seb say about the rain? Very quickly. It felt like a 50-50 call as to whether we should pit for intermediates. It felt like the rain was staying light, so we stayed out. But then it became much heavier and caught us out, so we had to pit in the end to fit intermediates, which dropped us down the order. When you have rain late in the race, it can give you a big opportunity, but it did not go our way today. That's sort of what we've been saying. Is it, Jonty? If you get it right, brilliant. If you don't, then you look a plonker. But yeah, so it looks like they were caught out by that one. What lap did they pit? Sorry, Jonty. What lap did they pit in the end?
I thought at least one of them pitted quite early.
Let's have a look at what Pirelli... I did have the graphic up, but I've got to put it away like an idiot. So Vettel pitted lap 50. So he was late, wasn't he? And Stroll was 48. So Vettel did decide to try and stay out a bit longer. But Stroll was in a little bit earlier than Vettel. So, yeah, that is a late call. That's actually about... In fact, that is... only a lap earlier than Norris, and it was getting pretty bad at that point, wasn't it? So he's been caught out there. But yeah, they don't seem to be making much reference to the fact they made contact, so maybe nothing there. And I don't think it's even an investigation from the stewards. But they do tend to leave the team ones, don't they? They tend to leave the inter-team ones for the team to sort out, which is good, bad. I feel like they should step in the FIA.
Yeah, it doesn't matter whether it's between teammates or not. It's still driving standards and all the rest of it that have to be monitored. So I'm just looking at that graphic, and I'm just wondering if a couple like the likes of Russell, Raikkonen might have been caught out by going in that one lap too early and burning the inters out a bit. I mean, that obviously Bottas was further up than them, so oh no, he wasn't. He wasn't ahead of Russell at all. Yeah, he's the odd one out there. It's just so weird.
It is. It doesn't make...
It's like Lewis makes sense. Max makes sense. Sainz and Ricciardo, they make sense. But several of the others for this race, it's just, how did you end up there? I suppose they're the best races, though, aren't they? You're trying to pick... So I've got to go watch that again to figure out what the hell happened.
I'm just going to whack this in the stream and see if it's for anybody who wants to have a read of it. I don't know if they will, but I will just try and whack this Pirelli graphic in the stream for you to have a look at so you know what we're talking about when we come to it. There we go. Courtesy of Pirelli, I think I'm obliged to say. I don't know, but there you go. Follow at Pirelli on Twitter. Woohoo! Sub to Pirelli. Yeah, no, it is quite weird. It's so varied. Usually when you get a bit of a downpour, you tend to see them pretty close. I know you're only talking sort of lap 46 to lap 51, but you tend to see them pretty close together. If the rain comes on lap 30, then they're usually all done and dusted by lap 32, aren't they? It just seems a little all over the place.
Yeah, Black Hawk's typing it as I'm waiting for you to stop speaking so I can say it. You look, Russell's on used inters. So that would be some more explanation there. But then, so Sainz and Ricciardo, and they only pitted 1 lap later.
It's looking at Tsunoda. Actually, Tsunoda's was an odd strategy, wasn't it? Lap 47 pit for softs, and then 2 laps later onto the inters. That's bad timing.
I thought a couple more might have tried that. Because, like you say, the rain, it was just some. So if you can get out there on a really hot tyre, maybe you can get past it, but the rain intensified. It's classic AlphaTauri. They've had a few occasions of going for the big gamble and it not paying off.
I was just gonna say Adam Osborne's got in there before me, but looking at that graphic, lap 48 was. It looks like it felt like the right time to pit, didn't it, in terms of the crossover? Bottas a lap too early, although it still worked out of 5th place, and Raikkonen as well, but and Russell too. But yeah, lap 48 looks like it's worked out the best for Verstappen, Sainz, Ricciardo. Stroll will have been coming back through as well. So yeah, just for anybody, I'll put it back a bit later if anybody wants to see it again. But that's the Pirelli thingy. But yeah, Adam's
absolutely right there. 48 was the lap to pit, and you can quite easily tell 50 was too late.
Yeah.
That's not a big window to get it right. And we go back to Senna at Donington in 1993. Always be on the right tyre at the right time, no matter how many stops it takes.
What a lap. Jenson Button, Brazil 2012.
I was thinking more Australia 2010.
Yeah, great shout. Australia 2010. Even Canada 2011, whatever that race was. I mean, obviously, probably would have been even more dominant if he'd not kept running into everybody and getting penalties and pit lane speed and all of that business. Yeah. Oh, JV. Pierre Gasly, P13. Obviously involved in that incident. I think there might be something from AlphaTauri as well in my inbox. So, spun round. That was the one from. If you haven't actually, if you are, we'll read it again just for anybody who's tuning in. Stroll got a penalty for that. Although noting the evidence of the driver of the car, conditions were extremely slippery, especially as he was on older tyres. The stewards determined that it was still the responsibility of the driver to ensure that having left the track due to those very same conditions, he drove appropriately, taking them into account when he rejoined and turned into the next corner, considering there were 2 other cars in close proximity. So it sounds as though, and I'm just going to get confirmation on the AlphaTauri thing, it sounds as though Stroll's wandered off track and then come back on and walloped Pierre Gasly. So Pierre Gasly said, we missed a great opportunity after qualifying. The pace was strong here and I think we had a good first stint, but we just didn't utilise all the opportunities given to us this weekend, which is a real shame. We need to review everything from today and work out how to make the most of it. No mention of the Stroll incident from him, actually, to be fair. And I don't think there's anything either from AlphaTauri on that, or Aston Martin, so no mention of it really from either side. So I'm assuming, let me know in chat, I'm assuming he has just wandered off track and collected him.
Yeah, it seems to be.
That's how it reads.
Sorry, I've got to mention this bloody tweet from Tom Bellingham. It's a stat, apparently. The Twitch quartet have now all lost their first win in heartbreaking fashion. And he's right. Leclerc's engine in Bahrain.
Yep.
Albon getting nerfed around in Austria. George in Sakhir. And Lando today.
Yeah.
Talk about a learning curve.
I mean, obviously Albon had to still come through and beat Bottas, but I think the general feeling was at the time, watching that he had him on those fresher tyres. So that's a great point. Easy. That's a great stat. Great stat from Tommy there. But yes.
I wouldn't say great. Horrible.
I love a stat. Even if it's a horrible outcome of a stat, I still like a stat. So, and I'm just going to do a couple of super chats actually, so I don't forget them later that have come in. Raz says, if any of you are interested in career in F1, I'm pretty sure McLaren has an opening for trackside weather strategist. Any takers? Suji, thank you very much, mate. Says, call me old, but when I think of the last McLaren Mercedes pole before yesterday, I'm thinking Kimi and Mika. There you go. And Raz again says, maybe stewards determined it would be more dangerous for him and the other drivers to go out on track on another lap. There you go. Flummox says, character building. to add to that stat, Jonty. So very good. Let's
Yeah.
roll through these names and then we can have a good old waffle.
Did you not see the other one I posted? Which was honestly intended just to wind you and Dre up.
Oh God, what have you done? Leave me alone. You're such a bully.
So, today's rain is the Sergio Aguero for McLaren fans. Sorry to bring football into it.
You bitch. I still have nightmares. I still hear it when I go to sleep every night. And Phil Jones's face afterwards on the other feed. Yeah, anyway, so Yuki Tsunoda, I've not got anything on Tsunoda, bless his little heart. 17th place, not much from him today. I think a pretty rotten. Rotten's harsh on anybody this weekend, even on my rant about Checo, which apparently I'm wrong about. Disappointing day, struggled with the balance of the car all weekend. No, I think that, makes a lot of sense, actually. First lap where I was able to keep it on track, so I was hoping for some luck in the race. Just need to reset after this weekend and work on my baseline performance so I can start finishing in the points again. So, yeah, not much to say on Yuki. He was another one that we didn't see anything of, and obviously, if the balance isn't in the car, he's not having an amazing weekend. Who else have we got that we haven't done? We haven't done the Haas boys, I think, is the final team to do. Nikita Mazepin, home Grand Prix, at one stage was 13th, Jonty. At one stage was 13th, somehow still ends up 18th and lapped twice, and I think before Schumacher retired, he was behind him again. So that car is so bad.
It was quite early on, though.
Yeah. What, him up to 13th?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'd actually had some pretty reasonable pace right at the start. I don't know how.
I've never got anything to say on Haas. I always feel quite bad for Haas fans. I know Tom, who's been following this channel since pretty much day one, is a big Haas fan. I always feel like I need to say something, but I've not got much to say other than I'm just going to record it and play it at one point from my Go XLR thingy. Mazepin did what Mazepin had to do today, and that is all any Haas driver can do, and that's get the car to the end and hope something happens ahead that gives them an opportunity. He's done that. And Mick Schumacher retired with a mechanical issue. Team saying they had to retire the car because it was getting, I think it said progressively worse or something like that, so or detrimentally worse, but words to that effect. So yeah, pretty miserable day for Haas all round. Anything to add on Haas, Jonty, before I get to driver of the day? I'm really testing your memory here. Go for it.
No, it's DJ Red Raven's comment, presumably from an interview. The Haas driver said we were present, had nothing to do with the outcome of the race, but we always have front row seats. Yeah, there's not many better places to watch an F1 race from
than the seat of a Haas. the 2021 Haas. Oh, I've no more comfortable cinema seats. No, that's a great point.
Not very comfortable, but any action that's happening right in front of you, that's pretty special.
Driver of the day. I left my little gap there. Driver of the day. Let me know in chat one surname. I'll give them a few of them a read out. Sorry for being a little bit all over the place with this one, but that last few laps, I had it all planned out perfectly and it all just went mad and threw me off. But who's your driver of the day, Jonty? Officially Lando Norris. Do you agree? Disagree?
Really hard not to say Max. He came through the field much better than others. Sainz is another one. Lando, Lewis.
Tricky one.
Yeah.
Because you'd be tempted to say Lando and agree with the official one, but if he's the one that's made the call not to pit, inexperienced or not, he's still the one that's technically thrown that race away.
There you go.
Harsh.
I'll go left field. Alonso. He's effectively kept pace with the Red Bull the entire race.
So just to confirm, and this is important for what's written in front of me, Jonty, because I do these before we go live, so nobody thinks I'm just trying to copy. You are picking Alonso, not Verstappen.
Yes.
Right, I'm picking Verstappen then, because they were my two picks with Verstappen and Alonso. I was like, whichever one he doesn't pick, I'll have the other one. Max Verstappen for me, I think, came through the field really, really well. Timed his pit stop to perfection. If he made the call like Red Bull said he did, then that's absolutely spot on from him. He needed damage limitation today. He did that. He's 2 points behind Hamilton in the standings now. I think Red Bull described it as a win, and I think it's almost... It's near perfect for him today. The only way that's better is if he somehow manages to win it. I think that's, again, pre-weather, pre-rain, maybe that top 3 wasn't going to happen, but the fact he nailed that, I just can't look beyond him. And especially when you look at others that haven't made their way through the field, and he has. I know he's a driver on another level to some others, but I'm trying so hard not to say a certain name, but because people think I hate him. But Max Verstappen for me, and I think you great shout on Alonso, but I totally get why people are giving it to Lando, but I'm a harsh old man.
No, sorry, I was just laughing at something in chat. Apparently, we're biased towards Max. He nearly took himself and Leclerc out, not the other way around.
Oh, from Ken. Yeah, no. Yeah, I to be honest, Ken, it depends what video you click on, mate. If you click on this stream, you'll say I'm biased to Max, and then you'll click on another stream and somebody will say I'm biased to Hamilton, and then you'll click on another stream and we're biased towards British drivers, and then we're anti-British drivers. So I think a very good gauge of neutrality is the fact that you're biased to a different driver every weekend. So thank you, Ken. That's it was Hamilton last week, because I should have said Hamilton should have got a penalty, but typical British bias. So I appreciate that. It just confirms that neutrality. So Taj says Verstappen. Minty just points out actually that is one very expensive seat. If you're at Haas watching that one, that's nearly as expensive as a cinema experience. Late Night Sun says Max Verstappen. Aidan says Verstappen. Harley says Sainz. I'm going to say the full name today just for you, Emily. Punky Pink 83, aka Emily, says Lando. Aditya says Perez. I've butchered that name 100%. Let's scroll down a little bit further. Flummox says Lando. Vesk says Alonso. Adam's gone with Perez, just to really nail home how wrong I am. Thanks, Adam. I appreciate that. Annette says Sainz, and then Ricciardo. I mean, you want to talk about bias? I think Annette has finally got over a hangover from Ricciardo's win. Chazza says Hamilton. Michael says Max. Extreme BHP says Lando. KVJ channel member says LN4. Lando Norris, obviously. Carlos Sainz for Harley. Sainz is a very good shout from a lot of people. Eugene Sainz. Ramtin says Max. Comet F81 says Norris or Sainz. Professor Moron says Ricciardo Patrese. That is not my burner account. Sam Ash says Hamilton or Norris. Kung Fu Barbie talking about luck with somebody. I read that as something completely different. I thought that was a name. I thought it said Lando, but there we go. I'm just skimming through. But hey, anyway. Max or Lewis for Ramtin. Edward says Max. FM says Rain, the Rain, driver of the day. Mary says Ricciardo. Luca says Alonso is driver of the day. Lando is dunce of the day for not pitting. Harsh. Very harsh. Good point actually for Flummox there. Alonso kept Max behind in the dry. Charlotte says Kimi Raikkonen. Gaming with Steve says Sebi. Belen says Carl. As in Carlos Sainz, or am I missing something completely different? I don't know. Couple more then. Russell, Sainz, Seb, Perez. Yeah, there's lots in there. There's lots. I think the general, quite a lot of Lando to be fair, Jonty, but I think it seems to be between Verstappen and Sainz from what I've read out there, which I think. If you're looking at the drivers in contention, you'd probably say Hamilton, Verstappen, Sainz, Alonso, Norris, wouldn't you? They're sort of your drivers in contention. So I think the chat are right for a change.
Yeah, Sainz is a really fair shout.
Great shout. Let's do Q&A. I'll prompt you for Q&A. I'll do my YouTube a bit first, so bear with me. If you could drop a like on the stream, that'd be massively appreciated. 286 likes. Please do leave us some more. I love a like. What can I say? No target today, but we'll say, let's see if we can get that sort of to 350. That'd be awesome. Don't forget to subscribe as well if you are new. Lots still to come this season. Flipping heck have we got a title fight, and I cannot wait to see how it all unfolds. But at the same time, I kind of weirdly don't want it to go quite so quickly as it seems to be. But maybe that's just a measure of how brilliant this season is. So exciting. Even Russia's not a race I get excited for, but there was a little bit of me still looking forward to this weekend. So yes, please do subscribe, drop a like. Links as well to all guest channels. I've put Jonty's link tree in there as well, so you can go have a read of his stuff as well and follow him over on social media. And yeah, if you've got a question, pop it in chat, ideally race related, or you can call me out on Perez if you want and ask me a question. That's fine. It's Bash Sean Day for the 200th day this last 12 months or whatever. Please do leave us a question, but I'm going to bring this to you, Jonty. Pit stops, are they a bit farcical now? Do you think that having this human element involved is good that they've bought it for Belgium? Obviously a safety thing, but I know we're quite hot on safety on this channel, but I don't seem to recall that many loose wheels and that many pit lane incidents over the last few years or there has been that many that we need to have really tweaked the pit stop rules. But at the same time, we've said it before, one is too many.
It depends how you're defining it. Because with the way these wheels work, with the way these wheel nuts work, there's a bit of a difference between a loose wheel and a not fitted wheel. You know, they can be on and loose, but not drop off. You know what I mean? Like with both the Haases at their fated Australia race. You know, it is a safety issue, of course, but I don't think that's the root of it. I think it's the root of it is the fact that Mercedes didn't like losing 2 seconds every pit stop because Red Bull got it so perfect. And have we seen Red Bull having these issues?
No.
Exactly. They're the guys who are comfortably, or were, 2, 3, 4 tenths of a second faster every single time. They got the world record by a mile. They didn't have any problems.
Flummox actually kind of making your point there in chat, says rules changed because of Mercedes, not safety. The official word from what I read at the time was that it was a decision on safety grounds. It's the FIA that made that call.
That's always how it'll be worded.
Yeah, but it's still the FIA's call, isn't it? Mercedes don't make the rules, but would the FIA have investigated Ferrari's engine like they did in 2019 or the end of 2019 if the other teams hadn't kicked off? So Mercedes prompted perhaps the rule change, but it was the FIA that made the decision and called it safety. So that's how I kind of view it. But I just think today, was it I think it was the Red Bull. They were trying to get the green light to come on. Or was that last race? And they just seem to be, the wheels are on and you can see them frantic. It just feels really clumsy and not very Formula One, because I'm this great believer that Formula One is supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport. So if a team can do a pit stop in 0.2 seconds, let them do a pit stop in 0.2 seconds.
Yeah.
Don't matter. And the fact that we can argue safety, which is what the FIA have put it forward as, but that wheel bouncing down the pit lane in China, was it of Mark Webber's that hit that cameraman? Well, that wasn't last week, was it? That was years ago. So why is it taking so long for this to come in? So
that's the last time I can think of a proper escaped wheel.
Yeah. There's one now. Where was it? It was this season. It was it was when Mazepin and it was one of the Alfas connected in the pit lane. In the background, there's a wheel wandering down in the background from somewhere else. Not at the speed that Webber's came off, don't get me wrong, but it was wandering down the pit lane. I can't remember what that was.
Was that not a wheel knocked?
Oh yeah, that wasn't
from that.
That's what I mean. It wasn't like the Webber one. It wasn't an errant wheel from not putting it on properly. But you just said loose wheel, and I was thinking the last time I saw a wheel running away. Nothing will beat that video you showed me a couple of years ago of that wheel that followed that track all the way down and then bounced beautifully and landed perfectly on top of the tyre barrier. That is when I need a video that satisfies me and my OCD, that is the video I click on.
Yeah, that's from the Aussie Supercars. That was incredible.
What we got? Let's go to chat. I see what people are saying chat on pit stops as well, and then I'll do some questions. Raikkonen Austria last year, was that a loose wheel? It was loose. It came off, didn't it, when he was racing? But that's not a pit stop thing.
Yeah,
wasn't that a failure?
Result? Yeah, something broke on the suspension, didn't it? It wasn't just the wheel coming off because it was loose. Wrong. Yeah, so it was nothing to do with the pit stop.
Mary says Kimi Raikkonen Singapore 2017 broke the mechanic's leg. Was that an errant wheel?
No, that was a pit stop error. That was another weird one. But I think it was just them trying to do it too quickly.
Yeah.
But that comes to the point of their training obviously isn't good enough. You know, the regime, all the training methods and everything practice that they go through obviously isn't good enough to get it that quick. So, you know, that's a bit of a hamstring they've got during races. Red Bull have put that much more effort into getting it perfect, as Williams did before them, to get that advantage.
Do you know what, actually? And this was a point I was thinking about earlier, before the race, around pit stops. It seems really weird to me that they've introduced this human element, but they've also opened a window for more human error. And I feel like a lot, maybe not most or a huge percentage, but every time I think about loose wheels, it's because a wheel, you know, somebody operating a wheel gun hasn't put the wheel on properly. Well, that's human error. So you're just opening the window for another aspect of that, if that makes sense. But then if the automated system senses the wheel's on and it's not, then there's not a lot the mechanic can do, because when that light goes green, the drivers are going, which brings me to gaming with Steve's point. Bring back lollipops.
Yeah, or if they don't want the lollipop guy, as I've said all along, I'm pretty sure we started talking about this after the Kimi incident, because there was a hell of a lot of talk about it for obvious reasons. The guy got his leg broken, but they've all got these traffic light systems, and it's all, you know, automated when the gun's done a certain amount of revolutions to say that the wheel's on and all that. Get rid of all that. Just each person with the gun who has the call on whether the tyre is on or not, they have a button on top of their own helmet that they have to hit with their hand. It's that simple. The light doesn't change unless all four guys have hit it.
But that sounds too much like common sense.
Yeah, because they're forever coming up with far more complicated systems than it is. Now they've got a little switch on the gun or something, which can be accidentally triggered with a thumb. This is something that's completely out of the way. And they do, Vesk saying they have someone who can override it. There is people who can override it, but it's the pit wall who are turning around looking back at it. But they don't always have a good view down the pit lane, so you get unsafe releases.
It feels, I tell you what it feels a little bit like another case of F1 over-regulation. There's a lot of stuff they've brought in that I am totally behind, mainly the safety stuff. But it just feels like they want to really nitpick almost. It sounds really stupid. I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Like, micromanage every single little bit through the rules, and you don't always need to. Pit stops nowadays, with them being so quick, they're an integral part to the weekend. They're a massive part to Formula One, especially at the moment with little overtaking that we see versus the past. Not that there was ever a huge amount of overtaking when I was growing up. Anyway, there was a bit, but not a huge amount. But cars are so hard to follow. The pit stops are so important. Again, back to that point we've already made, Jonty. If Red Bull can do a pit stop in 1.5 seconds, let them. It's up to Mercedes. I'm bringing out my Ron Dennis line again. I'm bringing out the Ron Dennis line again about their bloody third brake pedal or second brake pedal, whatever it is. Instead of bitching to the stewards, rise to the technical challenge. That is what Formula One is.
Yeah. Yeah, I always agree on stuff like that. And there are other things that you have to consider with pit stops getting more dangerous. I mean, for a start, the garages and pit lanes haven't magically got longer at a lot of the older tracks, but cars now are 1.5, maybe 2 meters longer than they were 15 years ago.
I've had my rant. It's not even a rant.
Yeah,
It's
so
just...
so there's much less space. There's much less room for them to get in and out, which can cause more issues. So there's less room for the guys all around it, and there is far too many people involved in a pit stop. That's another big problem.
Yeah, F2. I know F2. Like, it's pinnacle of motorsport. F1, you need more than F2 have, but they do all right with one on each wheel, don't they? For example, but you know, I don't know. And just as well, while I'm just having a moment, stop banning everything. Just stop banning everything. It's any kind of innovation. I know it's about cost caps and trying to save money and all of that business, but if someone wants to stick a stupid wing somewhere, let them. And if it's dangerous, ban it. If it isn't and it gives them a massive advantage, then other teams have got to build it themselves. Anyway, Red Raven says, one race is still not announced. Do you two have any information on that? I've not heard anything. The last I heard on that race, I think Mugello had been mooted and Qatar, but I can't imagine Mugello in the middle of November is a good idea. So I would imagine, I think Qatar is on the list, but the rumours seem to be Qatar. If I were to put any, like, a gut feeling, probably a race around the outer loop at Sakhir, because then you can go on to Saudi Arabia a couple of weeks later, can't you? And then on to Abu Dhabi after that. They're going to be in the Middle East, so it makes sense to be somewhere like a Qatar. So, yeah, I think Sakhir outer loop is probably more likely, because I feel like if they bring Qatar in this year, Qatar are going to want a multi-year deal. They're not just going to do it to stand in, are they? And they're going to offer a lot of money for it as well. So,
yeah, the only reasonable options are Middle East or somewhere Southern Hemisphere.
2 races in Brazil. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be quite happy with that. Obviously, you can't go Northern Hemisphere because there was talk of Nürburgring or Hockenheim in November. Are you kidding?
A race around the streets of Aberdeen in the middle of November. Yes, please. You think it was slippery at the end of that one? Yeah, no, we'll see with that. What I do want to say actually on the calendar, and the reason I picked that question out is there's a draft calendar that's sort of come out this week. I think race fans have revealed it, and I think there's some other people are starting to reveal it now, probably from the original race fans article. But and I'm annoyed, and I'm gonna give you one guess, Jonty, what I'm annoyed about.
Oh, is this the rest of this year or next year?
Next year, 2022 calendar. Bearing in mind F1 are talking about carbon neutrality, reducing emissions, trying to save the world, and all of that business.
Would this be? I can't remember what it was. Oh, the placing of Miami.
Yes. Miami, Azerbaijan, and Canada. Now, unless somebody knows something about the weather in the US, why the flipping heck are they doing Miami and sort of, I think it's in June it is, or no, it's not, is it April or May? It's somewhere in there, May time.
May.
So they're doing it in May, then they're doing the usual lot. Then we're going from Azerbaijan to Canada in a week, back to back again. Why is Miami not where Azerbaijan is? And before you say you can't have Baku earlier in the year, Baku used to be in April. So you can have Baku earlier in the year. Why is Miami there and not next to Canada as a back-to-back? So don't talk about reducing emissions when you're going to fly from Azerbaijan to Canada and then back into Europe. Good Lord.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. If we're going to be stuck with Saudi and Abu Dhabi wants... Oh, no, let's not do this right now. We'll be here all day. Let's have a special stream at some point to argue about the calendar.
I don't know about this week, but if anybody in chat fancies a Wednesday stream, we'll have a calendar rant 1 week coming up. We'll talk about that another day, Jonty. But yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. But F1 will F1, I guess. It's what they do.
Yeah, pretty much. But something's come up on Twitter that I have to read out from Josh Wilcock. You know how silly and funny he can be. Lewis Hamilton's Grand Prix victories. He has 100. Yeah, amazing milestone. I'm going to read a list. Cooper, Alfa Romeo, Maserati, Van Wall, Matra, Ligier, Braun, Jordan, March, Wolf, Honda, Lotus 2012, Porsche, Eagle, Hesketh, Penske, Shadow, Stewart, Sauber, Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, Racing Point, and Alpine. Combined, have 96 wins.
That's ridiculous. That is utterly ridiculous. Oh, what a stat that is. Usman Card, thank you very much. Says, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this the first race since Germany 2018 when rain has arrived in the middle stroke end of a race? Also love the content, Sean. Thank you so much, mate. Appreciate that massively. I'll have a think and I'll just read the other ones and I'll get to it. Raz says, Perez no longer surprising, just disappointing. And Raz again says, Miami, South Florida is fun. I grew up there. It rains in random increments every hour, or sometimes that'll be fun. Germany 2018, last time we had a race interrupted by rain.
Yeah, sounds right. And also another massive AlphaTauri gamble that I still maintain, if that rain had been 5 minutes earlier, they'd have had a 1-2.
I'm just having a think. I know, yeah, the downpour after the race in Germany one year was when you came up with your famous podium cemetery line. Got to get you back. Yeah, but...
Yeah, that was 2018. Germany 2019 started wet.
Yes, it did, yeah.
Turkey started wet. Imola started wet. Spa started wet.
Oh, Spa didn't start. Don't you dare get me on that. I just saw a question about November 21st, just asking if there is going to be a race on November 21st. Apparently, it's still there. They are still aiming for 22 or reduced to 22 now. So we've lost one, but I think they've just run out. I think Sakir or Qatar is the way to go. Why isn't Miami next to Texas? Asked Harley. F1 will F1, Harley.
Because there's like 5 states in the way.
You know, you pedantic git. Love it. I'm gonna go through a lot of questions now. Oh, we're so old. We really are. Like with our attitude sometimes. Don't ban anything unless you need to ban it. Isn't that catch-22? I mean, on safety grounds, Harley, mate. I mean, if you put some of the wings that we used to see, like the X-wings, there were safety issues there. But if there's something that is perfectly safe and the teams all have a moan about and the FIA go, oh, no, you can't. Like DAS, there was no reason to ban DAS. It was a brilliant innovation. I still remember it like it was yesterday in testing that year. It blew our minds. Pretty much the whole community on F1 Twitter, on YouTube, in the comments, in the chat, what me and Stuart, I think, were doing, or it was me and Jonty, I can't remember. Absolutely blew our minds when we saw that. And everyone was like, brilliant innovation, what a great call. And then it got banned for because other people didn't like it, really. There was no safety issue there. That's what I mean by if it's really dangerous, then yeah, you ban it. You know, if somebody comes out with a missile launcher on the front of their car, then you're going to ban it. But if there's a little bit of a flicked wing somewhere that doesn't make any difference, then who cares? Or a bit of DAS. Very weird. It's just, I don't know. It's like the micromanaging, like I say. It's like next year's rules. I hope we do get some innovation. I really hope those cars don't all look the same. I'm sure they won't. Would you put money, actually, Jonty, on the cars not looking anything like the prototype we've seen?
Oh, absolutely.
Penis noses. Anyway, I am old-fashioned. I wish they would bring back refueling, says Hank. I think that's something we will have to. I'll have to disagree on, Hank. I don't ever recall refueling really changing races other than when it went wrong. Like Massa in Singapore 2008, for example. I don't think it really added anything to the weekend. But I ticked no on the fan survey that came through as well. So, yeah, most improved team for 2020 2021. Thinking maybe between Ferrari, McLaren, or Williams. That's from Black Hawk. So you can have that one, Jonty. Most improved team last year to this year.
Ooh, it's really hard not to say McLaren.
Ferrari? Got to be in there. They were dreadful last year, really, weren't they? Couple of pole positions this year, some podiums.
Yeah, but they had podiums last year too.
Did they? Oh yeah, Leclerc, because Leclerc was just driving the wheels off that bloody thing, wasn't he? I like the Williams thing, but I'll say Williams just to mix it up. If you're going to say McLaren, but McLaren, it's so nice seeing Ferrari v McLaren somewhere near the front again. In fact, today it was lovely seeing McLaren versus Ferrari at the front. I felt like on a right nostalgia trip. Thank you to KVJ, member for 8 months. Says, what's your opinion on Bud International making a comeback? Indian GP was fun while it lasted, as it was a decent Tilke track. First things first, KVJ, I'm going to make you the same promise that I've been making for the last 2 years. I will have a look into memberships at some point and get you something for it. I just keep forgetting. Other things take over. So thank you very much for your membership. But yeah, I loved India as a track. And this will go on to our stream about the calendar. But as I understand it, and I'm sure somebody can let me know, but I think politically that just is not going to happen, unfortunately. So I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a great track. Particularly the last corner. That was really cool. And the long multi-apex. It's just a shame that the whole situation really wasn't handled very well.
I think the everlasting memory of India, a lot of people say Seb's 4th title. For me, it is, I'm sure it was India, Lotus coming over the team radio and saying to Kimi Räikkönen, get out of the effing way, when he was leaving, and Roman Grosjean, was quicker. If Dan's listening, he'll go, Grosjean! Roman Grosjean was quicker, and it all got a bit bitchy. That's my memory of that track. I have no idea why. And I think Karun Chandok going out at the first ever session, wasn't he? He was the first one out on track in FP1 in the first ever session in India. Was quite a nice one. South Korea was good. Just saw Chaz say North Korea, but yeah, South Korea was a good track. Just they stuck it on the moon, which just made no sense whatsoever. A couple more questions then, and then we will wrap it up. Marie just wants to say that McLaren also had podiums last year, Jonty.
Yes, but it was already a fairly decent car. But also, we expect Ferrari to be up there. You know what I mean? The bad state of car last year was more of a surprise than the improvement to this year.
Ray Ninja wants to know if anyone can see his or their chats. I can see your chats. I'll wave. You can't. I've got a camera. What the fucking hell's the point in waving, Sean? Come on. Absolutely pointless. I support bans. We shouldn't be banning bans in F1, says Raz. Fair enough. I think Lewis will take an engine penalty at COTA. What do you guys think? That's from Travis. We'll answer. COTA could be a good shout, actually. Yeah, because you can overtake at COTA, can't you? Got that long straight. I'm just trying to think. Brazil could be a good shout for you can overtake a Brazil, can't you? Particularly down at turn 1. A bit tight in the middle sector, so maybe not. Mexico? I'm going to say Mexico. I'm going to write it down as a prediction. Where do you think he'll take his engine penalty, Jonty?
Turkey.
Yeah. I'm literally writing these down. Why not? I will get. So I think Mexico's a good shout because I said it, but also because you can overtake there. But then Toto Wolff has said, I think it was Toto Wolff, somebody at Mercedes has said that they might not need to take a penalty. They will. I think most teams are going to take 4. So yeah, we'll see, I guess. But I'm going with Mexico. I think that's a good shout. Sam Ash says should be COTA, definitely. What will they call the Miami Grand Prix if they keep COTA because of the whole one race per country thing? I think it is going to be called the Miami Grand Prix, isn't it? It's not. It is Miami Grand Prix. And then it's the US Grand Prix.
We call it the Dolphins Grand Prix, and then everyone can be disappointed in what happens in the sport. Sorry, that comes from a many years ago American football fan who was a Dolphins fan, and they just went poo. You think Ferrari went down last year or Williams have gone down? Nothing compared to that.
The reference means nothing to me. I have never watched an NFL game in my life.
Well, then you should.
Formula One, football, and NBA. That is basically it.
Oh, basketball's so boring.
No, it isn't. It's better than. I was gonna say it's better than NFL, but I've just said I've never watched a game in my life, so that would just be ridiculous. It's like somebody saying, "Oh, I don't like mushrooms. Have you ever tried them?" No, shut up then. If you've never tried them, shut up. Yeah, no, I've never watched. People tell me all the time I should, but there you go. I don't know why. That's baseball as well. I used to watch that as a kid, but then I got older and I was like, I get it.
It's worse than cricket.
Yeah, I get why. It's an American. It's their national sport, isn't it? It's a pastime. But it's as I got older, I realised it's pretty dull. But hey, if that's your thing, awesome. One more question, and then I'm going to wrap it up for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I really need a wee. And secondly, we've been going over 2 hours. So I will look for one super quick question. We've already answered the one on Lewis Hamilton, whether or not he's going to get that. I'll tell you what, we'll end on a tiny bit of silly season, and then I will check his Instagram story, Sachin, don't worry. From Platilobium, that's the best I can do. Second Alfa Romeo seat, who gets it?
They've got a second name.
Go on then.
Octusangulum.
There you go. It took 2 of us, but we got there.
I'm sure they've named themselves that way just to mess you up.
Mate, sometimes I struggle with the name Bob. I mean, come on. So second Alfa Romeo seat. Sounds like Joe's got it. $30 million as well. Is that your read of that, Jonty? And if not, who would you bloody love to... Well, that's a different question, isn't it? Who would you love to see in there? We all know Stoffel Van Dorn.
No. Yeah, it does seem fairly nailed on for Joe. Piastri's been amazing. He really has, but unfortunately, money talks.
Yeah, but Piastri's one for me that I worry a little bit like Tsunoda, and like I said about other drivers, that he's being rushed through a little bit quickly, in that he's sort of been promoted really quickly, and I worry that might be too soon. But he's also clearly, and you can disagree if you want, but he's clearly a bloody quick guy and an incredible talent. If he wins the F2 this year, which you're going to now say that he has, even though I have missed it today. If he wins the F2 this year, he's not got anywhere to go next year, and it would also be a travesty if he's not got somewhere to race.
Yeah, true. That is fair. There's a lot that are suffering that way, unfortunately. Again, we go back all the way back to the cost problem, because that's what limits the number of seats, because people can't come in, etc., etc. We really do need at least 2, possibly, preferably 3 extra teams.
Lucas says the promoted too quickly argument is entirely debunked by people like Leclerc and Verstappen. It's also proven by people like Yuki Tsunoda, who was bought through too soon. It goes both ways, honestly, Luca. I totally agree. But Verstappen, do you think Verstappen triggered that, didn't he? When teams started focusing on academies and bringing drivers through quickly. It's not worked for everybody, but Red Bull sort of started that.
Because it doesn't suit every driver.
No. Someone
who I think, you can see drivers that fit both of the profiles. Even in F2 right now, Mick Schumacher's already in F1, but we saw in your F3 and F2, it takes him a bit of time to get settled into how the cars are, and then he'll start to speed up. You watch him be so much better next year against... I mean, he's already a lot better than Mazepin, but you watch the difference next year, it'll be much bigger. And then F2 right now, you got Felipe Drugovich. He was terrible in F4. Absolutely dire. And then was a bit quicker when he stepped up, and then was quicker again when he stepped up further. That you get so much different. That's one of the beauties of the sport. That's why we love it, because there's so much difference in how drivers are.
Brendy asks if they're ready, they're ready. Tsunoda. That's the Scottish Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda wasn't. I completely agree, but the only way to know if they're ready is getting him in the car, and that's the catch-22. We've already used that one in this stream, but okay. So we know we need another team, Jonty. I'm going to put this to you super quickly. there is a lot of young talent coming through. There are not enough seats in F1. Should F2 look at binning off that rule that the champion can't stay in?
Yes.
There you go. I knew you were going to say yes, and I was going to say yes as well.
Absolutely.
And the meme as well, by the way, because also, by the way, they do that so that you don't get a grid full of loads of champions, don't they, really, effectively? You're not going to get loads of champions. And it's not going to be the same person winning every time because it's so unpredictable. So, you know, anyway. But that meme people talk about on Insta, if you haven't seen the meme going around of Valtteri Bottas from Italy, where after the race where he's showing the replay, you know the one I mean. It's Valtteri shared it, just a picture of Valtteri with all his engines. I can't get it up on the stream, unfortunately, but yeah, go check that out on Instagram if you want to just smile. I think Valtteri's just enjoying his Formula One at the minute, to be honest, now that he knows his future's done, which is great stuff. We'll wrap it up, Jonty. I'm going to have to get catheterised for these streams if I'm not careful. We're getting longer and longer.
You're a flag.
It's been a pleasure as always, mate. And I don't think I can quite believe we had a good Russian Grand Prix and a good French Grand Prix in 1 year. That's a rumour, actually, that I'm going to share super quickly. Apparently, Paul Ricard won't be on the calendar next year. Only a rumour. Apparently, Imola might have that spot. Anyway, just a rumour.
Yeah, that's where you should have flashed up the gif of Kermit going mental.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, good French Grand Prix, good Russian Grand Prix. Stands to reason that Abu Dhabi, end of the season with a title on the line, is going to be a freaking belter.
And it could be. I know they're not. I know there's only a few changes, but they could really make a big difference, especially those little apex changes in the third sector. That could surprise a lot of people. So just look out for Abu Dhabi. And you mentioning about needing toilet, I got caught out. I'll admit I got caught at the start of the stream, so you could say I started behind a safety car.
That could be added to your little chart of flags. I like that one. Yes, awesome stuff, mate. Next up, Turkey. And I like Turkey, so it should be good. So, yeah, thank you very much, mate. And 2 weeks, yeah. It was supposed to be next week, and then they changed it because it caught us out, didn't we, the other day. It's now a week off, and then we're off to Turkey, and then it's a week off, and then on to, apparently, still North America.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that.
Yeah. But yeah, pleasure as always, mate, and I will talk to you at some point soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again, and thanks for coming along, everyone. Clicky likey. I haven't done that actually. I should do that. But let's hope for more good races. How many we got left? 5?
7.
7.
Still 7.
God, what a
Valtteri
season.
Bottas can still win this title. Anyway.
Yes. Enjoy it, folks. We haven't had a year like this for a long time.
Awesome stuff, mate. Thank you very much. I will disappear and talk to you soon. Lovely. Thank you very much, Jonty. Thank you to you guys as well. Again, sorry if it was a little bit all over the place early on. But it just all got very confusing at the end. Although, to be honest, and I've said this before, I think certainly from next season, I'm going to stop going through the order and we're just going to sit and talk nonsense about the race for 2 hours. And if we cover everything, we cover it. If we don't, we don't. It's a reaction, not a review. So, yeah, usual thing. Other note as well, I'm going to go to the screen now. If you are a patron of the Red Bull tier, I think it is, I am going to update the list. I do it at the end of every month, so I will update your list if you're new. So thank you to any new patrons that have come in. Your support is massively appreciated. So if you're not on there, don't worry, you will be by the time we get to the Turkish Grand Prix, and videos next week should be with you in there as well. So just to let you know. Don't forget to drop a like before you disappear. Everyone's going to disagree. You always disagree with me. That was crazy. And don't forget to subscribe as well if you're new. It would be good to have some more people on board for what is going to be, I'm so excited, a crazy final 7 races and what could be a brilliant scrap right to the end in Abu Dhabi. This has got to go down to the wire, hasn't it? This has got to go down to the wire. It's just got that about it. So, best season since 2012, I reckon. This has been fantastic, but yes. Anyway, you can follow me on social media as well. Links in the description down below. But as ever, thank you for watching. I've been Sean. This has been the F1 Word. And until next time, goodbye.